Can we get all the trustees to the dais so we can begin the meeting? Oh, we've got Linda. She's back. She's coming. So we're going to get started now. We're calling the meeting of the Peralta Community College District to order on May 8th, 7:06. And the first item on our agenda is the Pledge of Allegiance. Trustee Hollis, can you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Madam President, you have a quorum.
The next item on the agenda is the report out from closed session. And Linda's gone, so I'll do that.
Do I have any more speaker cards?
We can get the PA system. Hello?
Can everybody hear?
No, it's not on. Where the guy at? Oh, we'll go there. The chance.
Is it PL? I can hear myself. It's feedback. Okay. So at tonight's closed session, the board voted to ratify. Excuse me, can we get some quiet so we could start the meeting? First thing on for the report of action taken in closed session, at tonight's closed session, the board voted to ratify the appointment of the following public employee contracts, which are subject to the contractual agreement by the Chancellor. Recommendation to appoint Cody Pelletier as Benefits Manager, District Office, effective May 9th, 2018 through June 30th, 2020, at $991 annually. 7 ayes.
No.
The second item on the from closed session, report out from closed session, recommendation to appoint Dr. Rudolph Biscoff as Vice President of Instruction, Laney College, effective May 30th, 2018 through June 30th, 2020.
Talk to them. Tell them to hush. They know what they're doing.
$164,318 annually, unanimous. If these individuals are present, please stand so that we can welcome you into your new position. Do we have Cody Pelletier and do we have Dr. Rudolph Biscoff present? If so, please stand so we can welcome you into your new position. Not there. So I'm going to ask that we be respectful during the meeting, and we're going to see if someone can work on the sound, but we're going to keep going because we've got a lot of stuff to get through. So I'm not going to shout from the dais, and if everybody doesn't shout from the seat, we'll get someone to work on the sound. So that concludes our readout from closed session.
No.
So I'm going to say this one last time. I'm not going to shout from the dais, and if we could get quiet down, then maybe somebody from here can work on, maybe one of our people that works with the sound can work on that. But the mic is on, and if they need to turn up the sound, we need to give them a little chance to do that. Here's our sound guy right here who's working on it. So the next item is the approval of the agenda.
So moved.
It's been moved by Trustee Riley, seconded by Trustee Withrow. We have actually one change. Trustee Weinstein has asked that we take, what's that item?
What's the number?
61.1.
It would be 6.1, we want to move to the action calendar from the consent calendar. So with that amendment, do we have, we could move to a vote with moving 6.1. 6.1, we're going to move off of the consent, and we're going to move it to action. And item number 6.1 is consider approval of first reading on proposed board policies, and we're moving that to from the consent to the action calendar. So with that amendment, do we have, I'll call the question, we'll vote on approval of the agenda. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. Next item is approval of the minutes. That's item 3.5. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
It's been moved and seconded. Madam Clerk, did you get that? Bonilla, second by Riley and Withrow at the same time. So it's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, we'll call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. The next item is the Associated Student Government Reports.
Okay. Hi, good evening. My name is Aisha Jordan. I'm a student from Laney College, and I'm going to give a report about going to the Congressional Black Caucus. But before I do that, I want to give the Associated Student of Laney College's report on what we have done up until this point as the student advocate. So we have found a vendor for J&J, which is the vendor for our oh my goodness, vending machines. This has been a long-going process, so we finally found a vendor, J&J. We have the Alameda Food Bank, which feeds over 200 students every first and third Tuesday. We have our food pantry, which will be launched in the fall semester coming up, which has been a long time coming, so we're very proud of that. We had maintenance done in our student center. It was on the third floor, and then also we have new water fountains in our student center for the fall semester. Excuse me. That's the first one, and then the second, moving on to the the 47th annual Congressional Black Caucus. I am super excited and want to say thank you to the trustees and especially Trustee Handy for all of her hard work in ensuring that all of the 15 students that went were able to go. It was life-changing for myself and others. We were able to bring back information from the Historical African American Heritage Museum. We met the director of the museum who helped put the information in to build the museum. We went to Congresswoman Barbara Lee's congressional breakfast. We got to go to the White House area, and it was just super, it was super awesome. There is no words for me to explain it other than everyone should go, but we were able to bring back information to help other students in regards to history of African Americans. There was people from in the top of their field that were African American in all fields that you can imagine. We were able to go to a roundtable through Essence Magazine of women in power in all different fields. Like I met Dr. Christy Gamble, who writes policy for women's health, and that was super empowering. And it just made me feel like I could be a congresswoman one day. So I'm just really thankful for the trip because I hadn't seen anything like it ever. So I just want to say thank you, and that's all I have to say.
Good afternoon, Chancellor. Keith Welch, President of Laney College ASLC. First of all, I want to say thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, President Gilkerson. Thank you very much, Chancellor, for installing me the will to do what a wonderful job that the ASC has done for the Laney students today. Thank you for giving the trust in me that I would never embarrass Peralta District or I would never embarrass Laney College. But some things we worked on this semester is like we did the Black Lives, Black Lungs things dealing with smoking in the Black community. It was a very entertaining event that was put on by the Tobacco Club from Merritt College. And speaking of clubs on campus, we have over 25 active clubs on campus. And when I met President Gilkerson the first time, I was telling him about how I fed Green Monday. She said, Keith, you got to put an educational standpoint about it. Why are you having these events? So over the course of all the year, every event that we put on, we put an educational point behind the event. And our clubs has done the same thing. We had some wonderful clubs to do. We got our swearing in of our new officers that will be sworn in. We have a new president. His name is Dag. Nice young man that's been involved with Laney for the last 2 or 3 years. I think he would do a wonderful job. And one thing that we're working on right now is to call the Poor People Campaign. This is a national campaign that Laney College and the ASLC is involved in. We will have it next Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. What we will be discussing is housing, which is a very serious issue that's going on with Laney College in the Peralta District. We were talking about income instability and food insecurity. The one thing I want to talk about food insecurity was it's a problem at Laney and everybody knows the problem, but we are taking care of that problem. You know, we have hit that problem head on. I think if we could get together and have the students run the cafeteria after 3 o'clock that benefits the students without looking at a profit value, I think we have knocked insecurity food off the campus of Laney. And that's one of the goals that I'm shooting for. That's one of the goals our president is shooting for. That's one of the goals our students are shooting for, that not having a problem with a nice, beautiful culinary art department that we have at Laney, and our students are walking around homeless. So I think if we could take care of that responsibility by having the Student Center cafeteria open for students after 3 o'clock, with ran by culinary students for students to benefit students, I think that would be a real big advantage for our students. One other thing we did, we gave away scholarships. We gave away $10,000 in scholarship. And I'm proud to say that we gave 4 returning students who were returning back to Laney to continue their education $1,200 apiece. And we gave 2 students who's graduating or transfer $1,200 apiece, because we want to see the returning students who need financial help to reap the benefits of our money that we gave away. And the other thing we want to talk about is Restore Our Community, which I think is a beautiful program. I think everybody know that we need to somehow rehabilitate our people who getting out of prison that has nowhere to go, but they got somewhere to go at Laney College. And I think it's a beautiful program that the students are doing. They're working their heart out. They're putting their all into it, get educated. And one more thing before I leave, the thing that we haven't discussed yet is mental health. You know, a lot of people are sweeping mental health under the rug, but as you drive around Oakland, the Bay Area, you see mental health right in your face. And mental health come in a whole different facets now. You know, mental health has to do with you being homeless, you know, without food in your belly to sleep. You know, mental health seeing going around with drug addiction, you know, nobody to talk to. You know, I had to deal with mental health with my sister. And I was sitting there holding her while she was crying and crying, and I was crying, dealing with mental health. Now, could you imagine if I wasn't there for my sister? Like a lot of people are fearing mental health with nobody around. So I think these are the housing and the mental health. I think if we get a hold of those problems, it would benefit the district. Not only the district, it would benefit the students of the Peralta district. Thank you very much.
Hello, my name is Lalia Domingo. I'm a representative from College Alameda, and for our report for our school, tomorrow we're going to have an ICC thank you party at 3 p.m. to give certificates to the clubs in Alameda for like doing their responsibilities, coming to meetings, and like being active. And also, we're going to also give the Club of the Year tomorrow for the ICC thank you party. And also on Thursday, there will be a Cinco de Mayo event from my club, Latino Sonidos. And also there will be a scholar/transfer ceremony on Thursday at 5 o'clock in the F building, which is the Student Center at Alameda. And also we'll be having a Student Appreciation Day on May 16th from 12 to 1. And also graduation, which is coming up. We're planning so much for it, which will be on May 25th at 2 p.m. at the soccer field. And I'm also a delegate from the Congressional Black Caucus, and I would like to thank Dr. Kitchen and Linda Handy for selecting me to have this great opportunity to go to Washington, D.C. and go to the Congressional Black Caucus. I learned so much because not only like just for me to learn more, also I took it like to a personal level because I'm in a relationship with someone who's an African descendant, so I get to learn more about the culture, about Africans or African Americans. So I'm taking it to a deeper level for, family purpose. Other than that, I was actually lucky to meet Barbara Lee and going to her breakfast party, and then going to the prayer breakfast, which was a beautiful performance there, and meeting a lot of Congress people. So it's just a huge inspiration, and I'm pretty sure my leadership went to like a whole next level after that. So I'd like to thank you guys.
Good afternoon. My name is Iris Martin, student government president of Laney College. Well, I'm kind of sad today because this is like my last report of 2017 as we introduce our new board. But I'm happy to say that we learn a lot from each other. We're like, students, we're sisters, we're brothers, we are mothers, we are everything. So it's hard to be like part of a student government, especially being a full-time student, working full-time, trying to pull those grades, but also you still want to be there for those who don't have a voice. You want to represent them. So it's like so much, but thankfully, me and my board, we got along together. Of course, like everybody, sometimes we get mad at each other, but we're happy the next day. So it's just always like that. I mean, we're human beings, and I would like to say more, but it's just like, getting kind of nervous. However, today I made a presentation. It's going to be like around 6 minutes long from all the trips we have done as a student government, which is we have Laney College, we have Berkeley College, we have Alameda College. And then the reason why I did this presentation, it's because I would like you guys to support our new boards because, I mean, as a student, again, it's really hard to have those opportunities, and we should always support those who are there because we're the future. So that means that if you guys support us now, we're gonna stand there, and in the future, when we graduate, of course, we're gonna give back to the community what you guys have given to us. And before moving on to the presentation, I would like to thank all of you, especially for my advisor, Dr. Kitchen, who has been there for us. Yeah, he been standing there for us, like for everything. He listens to us. Like when we're mad, when we're sad, he's there and he says what's better for us, what's the next step, and he's always there to support us. And then I would also like to thank Trustee Handy, because she was always there for us too. Like when we need help with something, and she will be always there. Like if we will call her, and she would be, even though she doesn't have time, she would say like, yeah, I have time. Let's talk like really quick. But those things really help us to continue forward. And so, well, this is not the last thing that I'm gonna do. I'm gonna continue with my school, and of course, maybe someday I will be sitting right there. Okay, so I try my best to put this video, but I don't know if it's gonna work in here. Okay, so there is another video next, as we say, for like, well, basically the main purpose for us to go to Washington, D.C. for the Black Caucus was to learn about the history of, of African American. And this is some of the things we learned while we were over there, and some of the things we saw at the museum. So as you guys can see that video, you guys know that why we're standing here today, because we're here for each other. Just because we're from a different race, different color, we might not speak the same language, that doesn't mean that we're not human beings. We're human beings, and we're here for each other, and if we stay united, we can do so much more than what it's like right now. And we'll thank you so much for giving me this opportunity to be here today, and I will share this video with you guys because it's like pretty long, and then it has like more videos about what else we have done, not just the Black Caucus, but we actually have attended some other conference. But however, today this will be like the presentation I'm going to do today. And thank you again, and please stand for each other. Again, we don't need walls. We don't need deportation. We don't need segregation. Because we are all human beings, and we deserve to be happy. If we are not happy, then who's gonna make us happy but ourselves? And stand for each other, and value yourself and love yourself to learn to value others. Thank you so much.
I thought she was going. Hi, everyone. I missed all of y'all. I miss seeing your beautiful faces. Oh, where'd Dr. Burns? Oh my God. I didn't even notice Dr. Lamb was here. My bad. No, Okay, so I am Yamis Johnson. I'm a Merit College student. I was one of the students that went to the Congressional Black Caucus. So I do want to say thank you, first of all, to Peralta, because I know you guys probably figured out some type of way to get a budget for us and get us through there. I do want to say thank you to my sister colleague colleges for their ASs putting up some money for some of our people too. And I just want to say thank you for you guys to really give us that opportunity to go and experience everything that we did get to experience. I'm grateful for Dr. Kitchen and Trustee Handy actually picking me, seeing that it was going to get me somewhere and actually pull me forward, in which it has. It's taught me better how to speak, as you guys can see now. And it's really taught me better how to understand people more intellectually and to understand them more personality-wise and interracially. But outside of that, I do want to share that one of my most prominent experiences at the Black Caucus that I will never forget is that my family originally, when first got deported over here into the Americas, was in Washington, D.C. and did help build the Washington monument thing. And I did know that there was a rock there that was last touched from them. I just did not know where it was at. So then when we went to tour the White House, you know what I'm saying, it was there. Yes, or the Capitol. It was there. And I so happened to bring my family's amulet that usually gets passed down every so often of years, because I thought it would be great for me to wear it as I was out there and take pictures to show my family that, you know, I was wearing family stuff while we was out there. But when I seen the rock, I went to touch it and I just wanted to take a picture with it. And as soon as I did, I broke down. I started crying, and as soon as I broke down and started crying, you know, Miss Handy, she liked to keep on to her schedule. So she was like, come on, we gotta go. And then she came up to me and she touched me, and I turned around and she see my eyes and she was like, oh. And she started breaking down, so she made me break down more. And then Dr. Kitchen coming over there like, what's wrong? We gotta go. And then he sees what's going on and he's like, And then everybody else who was, a colored kid seeing me break down started breaking down, and then everybody was just sitting there like, whoa. And the most, and then like as this was all happening, there was a woman that's is that her name? Docent, okay. Oh, there was a docent there. Okay, I just learned a new word. She was there and she started doing this powerful speech that was by Frederick, I believe, and it just made everything mush together and really make me realize that being with my family, as Miss Handy called it, and learning more about my family and putting in as much time as I can to my family makes us grow together and makes us stronger than anything else in this world. So I'm grateful that you guys showed me that I'm stronger with my Peralta family than I am anywhere else when it comes to school, when it comes to coming at a board meeting, when it comes to anywhere, because without this family, we aren't going as hard as we can as students, and without the district supporting us as well, we're still not going as hard. So I'm very grateful that you guys have done what you've done, and I'm grateful that you guys have given me the experience to actually see where one of my great, whoever knows how many times, family members last touched their last stone before their last breath. Thank you.
This is my duo. Come on.
Oh, hello. I'm Brianna Williams. Most people call me Bree, like some of the trustees. I also attended the Black Caucus. I believe that the most that I got from the Black Caucus was like how to fit in with others. I'm a very outspoken person. And stop. And I just looked around and I saw like all of the positivity between like Black men and Black women, which is something that I didn't really grow up with. So it was a very eye-opening experience. What else? Give me something else. Go ahead, your turn.
Oh, okay. Well, hello everyone. My name is Montel Floyd. I go to Merritt College and I serve as the ICC chairperson at Merritt. First, I want to thank Linda Handy and Dr. Kitchen for this experience. I grew up in a small town called Santa Rosa where I wasn't raised around my skin color, so I wasn't taught my African culture. So going to this museum, into this caucus, really opened my eyes, and I learned more about myself. So I really want to thank the district for allowing me to go there with my other colleagues and other people from my sister college. I really appreciate it. It was just really amazing to meet people that I see on TV all the time. So yeah, and I thank you for all the conversations with Meredith Brown and Linda Handy, the private ones. You guys helped me be the leader I am today, and I just got reelected, so I'll be here again.
Yeah, I guess I'm done.
Thank you. That was very powerful. Thank you, students, for sharing that. The next item on the agenda is the Peralta Classified Senate Report. Mr. Bryce has emailed his report. He couldn't be here, so I'm just going to read it really quickly into the record. Good evening. I had hoped to be present to deliver my report in person this evening, but due to professional and personal health reasons, this will be my last report to the board on behalf of the classified staff here at Peralta. It is my time to pass on the mantle I received from James Blake a couple of years back, and like several of my classified colleagues are doing this year, start looking at life after Peralta. I want to say how much I've appreciated working with the members of the board over the last several years to better the state of the Peralta colleges as well as the classified and confidential employees. I know there have been meetings that have lasted well over 3 hours, and since my regular shift can begin as early as 7 a.m. some Tuesdays, they end up becoming more than 12-hour days. Besides being physically draining, once the realization that my request for a desk audit and upgrade of the head custodian position was denied, it became clear that I had reached the fullest extent of my position, and the shared governance work I was doing would not further my career in any way. The interim president of the Classified Senate, Roberto Gonzalez, will, along with the current leadership of the campus's classified senates, continue the work of the classified professionals at Peralta in the area of shared governance. As for the unions, both will be separately meeting this Thursday. SEIU Local 1021 for the election of its officers, and IUOE Local 39 will have a general membership meeting to go over the contract article sunshined at the last board meeting. Thank you. Timothy Bryce, Head Custodian, Merritt College. Classified Senate. The next item on the agenda is the District Academic Senate Report.
Good evening, Trustee Brown, Riley, and the rest of the trustees before us. Welcome to my colleagues from the Peralta Community College District, and students who have spoken before us, and the rest of the administrative team. In the spirit of the season of finals, I'd like to use this report to share some of the highlights from the past academic year that I may not have shared before. At the beginning of the year, the DAS agreed on the following goals. Convene and develop guidelines for a comprehensive district distance education plan, which includes district DE enrollment goals, course review, instructional support and training, student support, and student achievement goals. From research and evaluation of data, draft resolutions and recommendations directing more fiscal resources toward classroom initiatives, reduce student textbook costs by 40% through promotions and designing structures for open educational resource adoption, draft governance calendar for Senate consultation and share with college presidents and district governance bodies, and plan and convene a local plenary to educate faculty on how the Senate is a medium for amplifying the voice of students and faculty. Excuse me, it's getting warm all of a sudden. On only one of these goals have we fallen short, and that was the reduction of textbook costs. We were advised by administrative leadership not to identify this as a goal, but we did so nonetheless because we felt that we needed to keep working towards this aim. We have made great strides thanks specifically to the work of the faculty I mentioned at the last meeting of the board. And despite not meeting that one goal, when we look back on the academic year and sometimes feel overwhelmed and underachieved, we are proud to look back and acknowledge and share with you what we have accomplished. Next, several of us attended the district budget presentations. They were also billed as hearings, and we identified this as a step in the right direction. Back on 17 November 2017, President of the Board, Brown, and VC Williams, interim VC of Finance Williams, gave a presentation titled Fiduciary Responsibility Regarding Budgets and Fiscal Oversight in the Shared Governance Process. I referenced that to go back to the budget presentation, that those service unit budgets didn't go through a forum for recommendations from shared governance bodies is somewhat out of step with that presentation. We've heard that we didn't have a template for any such forums, but just as there had been no templates for deliberation on the FTES targets, we have seen that where there is a true will, there is a true way, literally demonstrated by the efforts of VC of Academic Affairs, Dr. Siri Brown. The DAS endorses the letter being presented later by career education faculty, and I personally understand and stand with my union colleagues in their message regarding the disproportionate growth of the district office. In an era of austerity, we feel that shielding students from the impact of those measures is paramount. Because 2 years into our funding of the WD, of the Workforce Development Continuing Education Unit, we have not seen the return on the investment guaranteed in the CEDAR rec dated 29 June 2016. The DAS feels that, excuse me, that it is only proper to suspend the permanence and growth of the unit until such a time that a thorough, transparent process naming the goals of the unit, accountability measures and timeline for achieving those goals, as well as the delineation of functions distinguishing the work from the unit from that of the college academic programs. I will not speak for my union colleagues, nor as a union member on the matter that they will be sharing during public address, because that is not the platform on which I presently speak. But from the Senate perspective, the issue remains one of process and inclusion of the district office in the budget allocation model. Regarding the inclusion of the district office and budget allocation model, the DAS looks forward to the meeting this coming Friday with our classified Senate, leadership, faculty union, and classified union colleagues to begin taking steps that the DAS have asked, that all of us have asked to have been taken for over a year now. We go into this meeting as hopeful as ever that we will establish the foundations for an immediate inclusion of the district office in the budget allocation model with a process designed by the colleges to vet district services, establish accountability for ensuring that the principles we agree to in terms during the meeting are actually used in governance deliberation and executive decision-making, ensure that all developments, including the adding of new positions and requests for consultants in the district and colleges, be based on deliberative planning prior to decision-making, And to this end, we reaffirm the principles of deliberative planning, adherence to transparent timelines, full disclosure of necessary information/data necessary for the recommendations and input, measures of efficacy, and et cetera, and establish accountability measures for that adherence. Reaffirm that the primary focus of planning and resource allocations be to promote the success of our students and ensure that resource allocations to the colleges and district be equitable and based on the above points. I'd like to share a word of thanks to the 4 college presidents and their vice presidents. At no other time in my 6 years on the DAS have I witnessed the level of collegiality we now have at our 4 colleges. It is not to say that there aren't some challenges, but going into those challenges with the level of mutual respect and trust that has been built at the colleges certainly makes everything less daunting and additionally makes the work more fun and fulfilling. Finally, congratulations to all of the graduating students at the Peralta colleges. Meeting and matching your hope is one of the greatest endeavors any of us could ever embark on. We are grateful for your presence, your intellect, and your perseverance that you demonstrated in your time at our colleges. We have learned from you and grown because of you.
The next item on the agenda is the public communication, item 3.9. We're going to do public comment. Everybody that wants to speak hopefully has turned in a speaker card. We'll have 2 minutes per speaker. I'll be the timekeeper. Trustee Handy will we'll call the names.
Okay, I'm going to call up the first 5 people. Beth Keene, Ethan Hill, Alvin Ware. I'm sorry, I can't read your handwriting, but it looks like Alvino Ware. Nilofar. Francisco Valdespino. Please come up. You have 1 minute each. Correct? 1 or 2 minutes? 2. 2 minutes each? Come on up. One is so short. Okay. So let's get in the queue, the next group, which is Ellen Murray, Eva DeGenera, I can't tell what it's saying, Aisha Jordan, and Shatera Neff, and Matthew W.I.K. I can't read the rest of it, I'm sorry. So the first group come in, the second group please be in the queue. Thank you. Go ahead.
Go ahead and start, and I'll give you the time.
Introduce yourself.
Sure. Yes, I can. Okay. All right. Hi, guys. My name's Ethan Hill. I'm a Peralta student who's been in the system for about 2 years now, since the summer of 2016. I took an ASL class at BCC and fell in love with everything about it. I loved the autonomy. I loved the structure. I loved the fact that there's this entirely new thing that outside of Peralta, there was very little likelihood I could learn that I could learn. And I liked the fact that it made me feel like I was on the right track. That being said, there are a lot of restrictions in the current system for students as far as, faculty's needs being met. And most of my general ed classwork, not so much for major prep, but, we're talking, English 1A, English 1B, I took chemistry, just Chem 1A at Laney, and I noticed that it was so many students and the demand that was being required by faculty, it led to sort of an imbalance in that the students were not necessarily being able to get their own needs met because a lot of the time there just wasn't enough of a faculty to go around. In my very first English 1A class I took, there was 30-something students to just one teacher. And, I was lucky in that she was an amazing professor, but her needs she couldn't prioritize getting my needs met as a student because she was spending so much time trying to get her needs met as a faculty member. And I feel like that is something that can and should be handled in a timely and effective manner, because I am somebody who is lucky enough to get in and through it and be supported by the Peralta system. But I know many people, especially people that have children, people that have work, people that are just traditionally disenfranchised who cannot use this system as the stepping stone it needs to be because of the requirements needed
by the fact that faculty cannot get their needs met due to a lack of funding. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Nilofar. I come here from Afghanistan in December 2015. My brother worked with American and Afghanistan, moved to here. And my brother sponsored me, my family. And I finished high school in Afghanistan. I finished high school and then come here and I started College of Alameda. My brother brought me to College of Alameda, and I have been studying English here for almost 2 years. And the College of Alameda is safe and close to my house. I really like it because College of Alameda has a really good teachers and good skills. They help me has improve our English. Every likes to College of Alameda because he's a strong community. All of my family and friends study here. And the classes, Cats and English program affect me because I can't go to the other college because I don't drive it. I am also not comfortable with another college. I will take it a longer time for if I go to the other college, and also I can go to the other college for studying because I am a full-time student and I have a part-time job here. I want to continue all of my class and work the same place. And I hear to College of Alameda is cutting classes and also canceling all of community class for students. Please return my class again. Return the English back to College of Alameda. Finally, I want to give you a student's letter for College of Alameda asking to not cut class, please. And I have a lot of letter, and thank you so much for time.
Good evening, Alvino Wong. I probably wrote that messily. But good evening, trustees. I'm Alvina. I'm with the Asian Pacific Environmental Network, and I work with hundreds of Chinese low-income immigrants and families in and around Chinatown, many of whom are also your students, many of whom are also workers, who also are relying on Peralta classes to really advance their education and opportunities for their families. And it's so startling to hear about all these class cuts that are happening next school year. And as I was talking with one of our members who's a student right now and couldn't come tonight because he has a statistics test right now, he was so worried about the ability and opportunity to continue taking classes next year. He's a full-time worker, and it's hard enough for him to find the right classes that he needs to take with the right schedule that doesn't jeopardize his income. And as a student myself now, inspired to come back to school, especially after working with the brilliant students and educators from last year trying to protect Laney from a corporate baseball stadium. And as a voter who voted to pass Measure B in 2012, and taxpayer, I just really want to urge you all to not cut these classes and use the Measure B funds as they were intended to, and really restore these cut classes that you have planned for the students, and to use this money to fairly treat all of your really amazing educators here, especially part-time faculty. Thank you.
Hello, good evening. My name is Matthew Wittmeyer. I'm a student. Oh, well, somebody else want to go?
Ethan Hill and Francisco? I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Okay, so wait a minute, I'm sorry, let me just get
group.
you straight. We've had Alvina, Beth? No, Beth. Okay, Nilfar, we've had. And I'm sorry, what is your name?
My name is Matthew Wittmeyer. I was called earlier for
Okay,
the second
maybe
group.
you're in the second group?
Yeah, I terribly apologize for.
No, you're in the second group.
I know,
I'm sorry,
I know.
you're in the second group. Go ahead.
May I? Okay,
Yes,
thank
go
you.
ahead.
Well, can I get the time back, please?
It hasn't started yet.
Yeah, it is.
Okay.
Well, I'm going to try to go quickly here. My name is Matthew Wittmeyer. I'm a student at Merritt College. I actually last spring worked with Professor Lawrence Lee to try to develop a cannabis course for the department. It was supported by the department, by our chairs. I then presented the class at the Curriculum and Instruction Council. It was approved. We were in the process of getting it scheduled for this January. I received an email in November from Dr. Siri Brown, Vice Chancellor of Academic Affairs, saying that it's not legal to do so and that we needed a permit. I reached out to the City of Oakland. They said, no, there's no such thing as a teaching cannabis class permit. I reached out to the Bureau of Cannabis Control with the state of California. They said, no, there is no permit required. We're talking about cutting classes right here, right now. There are literally hundreds of people that want to come and take these classes. We passed out surveys to all the students in the department. We could be generating enormous revenue from these classes. It's legal under state law. It was in 2016, Prop 64 passed, which allows for research institutions to start developing strains of industrial hemp. Every person in the entire state of California over the age of 21 is allowed to cultivate 6 marijuana plants right now, right this second. So there's an industry that's developing, which is going to create thousands and thousands of jobs throughout California. I previously had worked in the industry. I went to school because I wanted to actually have real hands-on skills instead of the old wives' tales and word-of-mouth ways of cultivating cannabis and moving it into the 21st century with strong horticultural and agricultural processes that we see now. So I am asking the board to discuss this issue. I know it seems like a joke, it's cannabis, whatever, but this is something that the students want. It's good for this school. It's good for the city of Oakland. We've got an equity program here, which is opening up doors for black and brown folks and formerly incarcerated folks to get into this industry and have a real good job. Last thing I'm gonna say, I've had 5 of my classes dropped in the last 3 semesters. I should graduate next fall. Please stop dropping more classes and support our teachers. They do such a fantastic job. I can't express how much better the education I'm getting here at a community colleges than I got at the University of Florida and the University of Nevada, Las Vegas, where I have a bachelor's and a master's degree. This is a fantastic system here. Thank you.
Wait, before you start, so Beth?
Oh.
There's no Beth Keene and no Francisco Valdespino. Okay.
Okay.
Next.
Okay.
Aisha Jordan.
I'm Aisha Jordan. I'm a student advocate at Laney College. I'm speaking as a student, though, myself. I'm just asking that there be no cuts for teachers because right now it's really hard for students to get out of college who are parents and also full-time working or employed people. I'm a mother of a 14-year-old, and I'm also a DSPS student, so I've taken a lot of classes over and over and over again in order to pass so that I can graduate because I learn differently than some people with certain things. And there are people that are out there that are brilliant, but they need a second or a third or a fifth chance to do something. And if you can't get one class because there isn't availability during your schedule, it makes it really hard. And I know that our Peralta district is going to do the best that they can. I know you guys have done awesome work on a lot of different things for us, and so I'm just asking that that just be taken into consideration. Thank you.
Ellen Murray, Evan DeGennaro Shatira, and Alan Valadez, and Victoria. Please be in the queue.
Good evening.
Please come forward.
My name is Ellen Murray. I was on the list in the second group. I'm a student at Laney, a non-traditional student, obviously. I'm retired from driving a bus. And I wanted to pose a question to the trustee members. I'm wondering how many of you ran on a program of carrying out cutbacks and carrying out the Walmartization of jobs for the professors. I doubt any of you ran on that program, and yet that's what's happening. It happened in my industry, driving a bus, the part-timing. It was done as a cost-cutting measure, and it provided less service to the passengers and was a terrible situation for the bus drivers. So the same thing seems to be going on here. Just there's a couple of figures here. I'm also a taxpayer, and I pay parcel taxes. So apparently, despite budgeting $6.5 million of Measure B funds for part-time faculty, only about a fifth of that, less than $5,000, has been spent. Where'd it go? The same thing has happened in other fundings. It's been going on a long time. Money gets allocated, voters vote for it because they want the schools to serve the needs of both the students, myself. I want the students to get the education they need to move on. And yet, where's the money? That's a big question. Secondly, I'd like to say that you have within the power of your trusteeship to change this whole progress of adjunct professors. There's fights all over the country to make them full-time, and you all should be supporting that and making the work at a community college full-time work for the faculty, because full-time, secure faculty means better education for the students. The final thing I'd like to say is this is a form of institutional racism given the student body, immigrant workers, non-white community workers, and yet these cuts keep happening. Thank you.
I'd like to cede my time to Ethel Longscott.
What is your name?
Evan DeGennaro.
Is Ethel here? Okay. While she's coming up, can we have Shatira please come forward?
Hello, everyone. My name is Shatira Neff. I'm a student at Laney College. After I can happily say after 5 long years at Laney College and Alameda College, I'm graduating with my math degree and I'm transferring to UC Davis, where I'll be putting in the work. That was actually a calculus joke. No one got that, okay. So I just wanted to talk a little bit about students transferring. I feel like it's really important for us to have these classes. As a math student, the higher we get into the classes, it's more competitive to get into the classes. The more needs of these classes to be fulfilled so that it can be possible for students to be able to transfer. A lot of times you go into these classes and they're very impact, and a lot of students can't get into the classes that they need, and it's only a handful of professors that teach those higher level math classes, physics classes, or chemistry classes, and we can't get those classes. I can say that me being a student here at Laney College, it's been kind of hard because I've been dealing with housing insecurity, food insecurity, and a few times when classes weren't available to us as students. And so for almost 5 years, I've had these different obstacles I had to find ways through and over to now be getting my my associate's degrees and to be transferring. And it's really important that the classes that's being cut back is not cut back, and that if these classes are cut back, more say so for part-time students, full-time students, for professors to really stand up and have a say-so in what classes are really needed for students to be successful, because it's really hard as a student and as a part-time adjunct professor to be successful if we can't get the classes we need, and then enrollment goes down because they're finding other colleges where these classes is offered to them. Thank you for your time.
Good evening. My name is Ethel Longscott, and first I want to associate myself with all the wonderful students and faculty who have spoken. I have lived and worked in this city for 35 years, and I have fought all of my life for poor people and for the rights of workers. I want to cite something for you as you carry through your deliberations. Recently, the UN Special Rapporteur, Philip Alston, made some really damning comments in regards to austerity being pushed in Oakland. He said, and I quote, "At the end of the day, the persistence of extreme poverty is a choice made by those in power," and I close quote. You, ladies and gentlemen, have a choice in this matter as it relates to students and teachers in Alameda County. I appeal to you to restore cut classes to at least the 2017-2018 levels, specifically utilizing Measure B reserve of $1.4 million to be used to reinstore the cut classes. We ask the following: restoration of cut classes, no class reduction, no part-time faculty or job loss. Give students the options they need and deserve, and you've heard spoken to so eloquently this evening. Invest directly in classrooms. The problem is the Peralta District administration has cut classes from the 2018 and 2019 schedule, citing lack of funding. As of the last report to the District Enrollment Management Committee, the College of Alameda, Laney College, and Merritt College are slated to offer 31 and a half fewer FTE, with a few exceptions that Berkeley City College will be adding classes. Well, this will mean about 126 sections that will be lost. While some classes have apparently been added back into the schedule, we are waiting to hear the final report. At the end of the day, this directly hurts students, and they will have fewer class choices, and they will take longer to get their degrees, certificates, and transfers. This also means that part-time faculty will lose jobs, a group that is already vulnerable, with something like 16% on welfare. Many people in your workforce are struggling economically. So you, as people in power, can act to fix the problem or make it worse by dispossessing even more Oakland student community and staff. As people in power, you must be aware of the increasing numbers of workforce and contingent workers who are in unstable situations with few protections. This teaching workforce is most specifically impacted. For all of these reasons, we are demanding no class reductions, no part-time faculty staff loss. Give students the options they need and deserve. Invest directly in the classroom. Spend the Measure B dollars on instructions as it was intended and voted for by the people of Alameda. The larger problem of poverty in Oakland, Berkeley, Alameda, and the broader Peralta district will be affected by what you do. By responding affirmatively to this appeal, you can be a part of a powerful grouping who stops ignoring poverty and can begin to demonstrate effective measures to help lift people out of poverty. Let's do this, Oakland.
Alan.
Good evening.
Valadez. Are
Hello,
you
my
Alan?
name. Yes, I'm Alan Valadez.
Thank you.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Alan Valadez. I'm a Laney College student. I'm graduating this year with an Associate's in Science and Welding Technology. I've been part of Laney College for 4 years. I've been coming here for 4 years, and I've seen a lot of growth. I've seen a lot of prosperity coming through all of the classes that I've gone through, especially the skilled trades. And I speak on behalf of everybody here, the students as well, and the skilled trade teachers and staff, that it's unfair that we won't have the opportunity to share the same accomplishments and success that we have to share with everybody else, or that we won't be able to share with everybody else. So I urge you to please not cut these classes. These classes are very important, especially to me. I come from the Contra Costa district. It's very, very hard. And throughout the years, it's been hard for me to find the right transportation to come here to Laney every day and focus on my studies. Just recently, I have prospered in finding a good job in the skilled trades. And it's all because of Laney College. If it wasn't for the Laney College, I wouldn't be where I am now. And I'm very proud of it. I'm very proud for all the work that everyone has done here, for all the teachers, for all the students that I have met. So diverse, so open, so great, full of just prosperity and positivity. And I really do urge you to not cut these classes. Like I said, they're very important. And I wish I could pass on the rest of my accomplishments and success to everybody else along the way that is looking for those accomplishments. Thank you.
Thank you. Victoria? Are you Victoria?
Hi, I'm Victoria.
Thank you.
I was wondering if I could actually give my time to Vivian Wong, just so that she could speak earlier.
Vivian Huang, and I'm a Laney College student, and I'm also part of the Laney Social Justice Center. As a student here, I've noticed that most of the faculty are part-timers. One of my Laney professors, who is a part-timer, works 4 jobs at 3 different schools to put together a teaching career to make ends meet. For so many of these part-timers, this is their norm, but these professors are overextended. Is competitive enough to acquire a part-time position? We can't afford to escalate this further. Most importantly, this affects students. In addition to fewer availability of classes, the demands make it difficult for part-time professors to be available for students with hours and to build relationship together, which supports student learning experience and student success. So, I ask that I urge you to use the Measure B funds that have been held back, to use them generously as they should have been to resolve the issue of faculty and class cuts. Thank you.
Trent Hannibal, Jennifer Sanowski, Christina Yanaria, Kimberly King, Keith Welch, can you all please come forward? Blake Johnson, Mohammed Popal. Trent Hannibal, last call. Jennifer Sanowski, Christina I'm sorry, Christina, I don't know your last name. Yanuaria, is she here? Okay, Jennifer is here. Jennifer.
I believe Christina Yanuaria ceded her time to me, Chris Weidenbach, to
Well,
read her
okay,
statement.
you're not in the queue yet. Jennifer Sanowski is next then. She's still here. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm still here. Good evening.
But she will need to give her time. Jennifer, go ahead.
Thanks.
Okay.
I'm going to make my comments brief tonight since you have a lot of people you'll be hearing from. For the past year, we've been talking about Measure B spending quite a bit. I've been here as the Peralta Federation of Teachers representative talking about Measure B spending. Cleavon Smith has been here as the DAS representative talking about Measure B spending. Michael Mills has been here as our taxpayer representative talking about Measure B spending. And tonight you've already heard from a number of students, and you'll continue to hear from faculty members. We all have the same message. Use Measure B funds as voters intended for instruction for students. Thank you.
Kimberly King.
Hi. Kimberly King, Laney College, Psychology, Umoja. And I'm here with the Peralta Federation of Teachers, with the community, and with students to ask that the classes that have been reduced as compared to last year be reinstated so that students can get the classes they need to graduate. Our union has been getting calls and emails from part-time faculty who are used to teaching certain classes, and they've been told these classes are not being offered. We're concerned about that because, so the part-time faculty are concerned, but that means that students are not getting the classes, as you've heard from so many eloquent students, that they're not getting the classes that they need to graduate, to transfer, et cetera. Faculty working conditions are student learning conditions. So as several of the students said already, you know, the conditions that part-time faculty are already in are not the most conducive for them to be able to have the time and state. They don't even often have their own office. They have to share offices or don't have an office at all. But basically, Measure B, we're urging that you use the funds from Measure B. Our understanding is that there still should be funding that was not used for classes. 72% of the voters in Alameda County voted because they really believe strongly in the Peralta colleges. They want to offer classes. The reason they voted for it is because the state funding was going down and they wanted to have their own local funding. So on the Peralta website, it says, Measure B will provide locally controlled funding for our community colleges to help students get the classes they need to prepare for four-year universities and future careers that cannot be taken by the state.
Excuse
So
me, Ms.
that's all
King,
we're
your time has
asking.
expired.
Okay, so that's all we're asking, is that this funds be used for their intended purposes. Thank you very much.
Can Trent Hannibal and Keith Welch please come forward? The next person we have is Christine, whatever, is Christine here? No, she is not. Next, Keith Welch. Keith, I have your
Yes,
card. Here it is here.
I really can't sit up here and talk about Measure B because I don't have all the information on it. So I can't speak up on it. I have to read it myself and find out.
Thank you.
So I've been asked to sit on the board with it for the tax money. So I made the decision to do that because the most important thing I care about is the students. You know, this seemed to me like Walmart. I didn't know we had so many part-time faculty members here. You know, that we are now don't even have enough full-time students. Why do we have so many part-time students here? You know, I think we need to part-time faculty. I think we need to look at the bigger picture of this and see what is going to happen with Laney College in the Peralta district. What is the plan 5 years down the line? This is $1 billion property we're sitting on right here. $1 billion. And you think the entity of people that was behind the A's ballpark won't come back and visit this again? They won't come back and knock at this door again and say, well, the people gave you all this money, but you misused the money. How are we gonna get a bond issue coming up on the November elections if we can't even take care of the Measure B money that they gave us already? People are trusting their hard-earned money, for one specific reason. It's for faculty and students. So if the money was misused, somehow the money gotta get put back. You know, I can't sit up here and point fingers at nobody because I don't know what's going on. But I know people didn't put their hard-earned money in the care of the district. So somehow the district and the trustees need to come together and sit down as one and think about the future of the Peralta district and the future of their faculty and the future of their students. Because this right here has lifted me out of poverty. I was at CTE with our vocational training a couple of weeks ago. I just went because I'm a culinary arts student. I just want to help. I had 3 job offers that day. 3 job offers where people were coming up to Laney College specifically for culinary arts students. Not no $12 an hour, not no $10 an hour, but $25 an hour, ladies
Keith,
and gentlemen.
your time expired. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Trent Hannibal. Trent Hannibal.
Hello, how's it going? My name is Trent Hannibal. I'm a part of the SJC. I used to be a senator for the ASLC. I'm also the president of the Media Club at Laney College and the historian for the BSU. I have 2 stories to tell. One is of a student who wasn't able to make it today. He actually came to this school from New Jersey and he wanted to major in labor studies. Now the class has already been dropped and he had to change his major. Now this is a huge inconvenience for anybody because now he has to sit there and probably take another year or so to finish up his education. My story is somewhat similar as his as well. I'm a media major. Now, I am graduating this semester with a 3.5 and I'm getting 2 AA degrees. I'm gonna get 2 more before I leave. But the situation is my first major was media. There's not media classes going on. I wasn't able to take 2 of the main media classes I needed to take this semester and 2 of them last semester where I could have been done already. I already work in the film industry. I have to provide for my family and things like this. It's a huge inconvenience and we cannot afford to have more classes taken away. You know, I will speak very candidly. I'm one of the only young African-American men you can see in this crowd. And the situations we deal with on a daily basis, for me having to leave my own neighborhood, is life-threatening, to say the least. And for us to be able to try to come to school and can't even get classes, it's crazy. And if you guys are representing Oakland, if this is for Laney, you gotta understand we are a demographic that needs to be thought of as well. And we need these classes. Because I have a lot of friends, I have a lot of family members who want to come to school, but is it worth them risking their life? And if they don't have the classes that they want to take, then why would they come to school? You guys are missing out on a lot of people who really want to join school, want to get their education, want to move on with their life. So that's my story, and yeah.
Excuse me, sir, what is your name? No, your name. Mohammed Popal. Okay, and next in the queue, Mohammed Popal, but then Blake Johnson, Hamayan Shinwali, Jenny Limper, Ethel Long Scott, please come forward. Peter Brown. Ethel's already spoken. Okay, and Chris Weidenbach. Could you all please come forward? Thank you.
Distinguished board members of trustees, Honorable Chancellor Dr. Lagar, respected presidents of 4 colleges, dear guests, and ladies and gentlemen, good evening. My name is Mohammed Siddiq Popal. I've had the privilege of working for Peralta Community College districts since 1990, in other words, for 28 years. And this was 28 years of joy, of helping, teaching, and empowering ESL students to get jobs, to get the training, to go to the certificate programs, to go to transfer to universities, and find jobs and become very good members and productive citizens of this country. It has also been 28 years of teaching and bringing people from around the globe here in the College of Alameda and making College of Alameda a very diverse place ethnically, linguistically, religiously, and also making it very beautiful based on those forms. Unfortunately, lately, there has been some evil plans at work in the College of Alameda that they want to deprive College of Alameda from this beauty, from this diversity, by cutting 12 sections of ESL classes. That's more than almost like 50% of ESL classes, while similar disciplines, size-wise, have been only cut by 1 or 0 sections. We have been cut by 12 sections, unjustly and unfairly. So that's why I'm here. And I'd like to also mention that ESL is a feeder program.
Mr. Bhopal, your time has expired.
My time is up.
You
I haven't
can
even
ask if
started
someone
yet.
else, if someone else would cede their time.
Hamayan is not here. He can have Hamayan.
He has to be here. The person succeeding him has to be here.
If someone else would like to cede their time, Mr. Bhopal can use their time.
Joel, I'm speaking of WDCE. I cede my time to him.
Well, thank you very much, sir. I appreciate that. Okay. Also, as you know, ESL program is a feeder program. We bring students with limited English proficiency. We teach them spoken English. We give them written English. And then we send them they go to certificate programs, they go to degree programs, they go to transfer programs. And some of these certificate programs especially, more than half of the students are ESL students. What we don't know is this, that by cutting ESL classes today, we are cutting these programs tomorrow. These students, these classes will not have enough students. In addition, our own district data shows, and I invite you to look at the data, that ESL program, district-wide, for all 4 colleges, is the success rate is higher than any other discipline. Look at them, please. Also, it also shows that ESL students stay in the program in the colleges longer by improving their English and then pursuing their other educational objectives. So I should also mention number-wise that there are only 2 ESL full-time faculty and 13 part-time. You can see the imbalance of ratio of full-time and part-time. In order to reverse these unjustified, cruel, and brutal cuts, the ESL faculty met with our president. We went and met with him. He promised that he will work very hard to help us, reinstate some of these classes. We helped with our dean, who was extremely supportive of our program because he knows it's very productive. We also I met with our vice president of instruction, who is new, and I believe he was misinformed, disinformed, and ill-informed, and probably this is his idea of cutting these classes. Cornered ESL, just one discipline. How could you do this, that if you need to cut 20 classes, how can you cut 12 from one discipline? Okay, that's what I'm here. That's why I'm here. I'm here Some of my students are here.
Mr. Bhopal, the second
Just
time has,
once.
we have
Give me
20
3
more,
more seconds.
we have 20 more speakers. Thank you very much, Mr. Bhopal.
Okay. Well,
Blake Johnson, please come forward, or we'll have to skip you. Blake Johnson, Hamayan Shinwali, Jennifer Limper, are you guys in the queue? Peter Brown, Chris Weidenbach. And you are?
All right, I am Blake Johnson.
Thank you.
And I'm here as a Laney faculty person and also as a representative of the Faculty Caucus, a plucky new organization of Laney and other Peralta College faculty who are interested in working together for common solutions for our students. One of these issues that we've identified as being of particular importance is Measure B. And so we have just announced our first Measure B, Be Better Award that we awarded this year to Solomon Obolu, who unfortunately can't be here to make it. He's actually teaching at Laney right now. We are going to give him this very nice button. Right? We also have a beautiful succulent. At some point, I'm sure we will be able to give him that as well. And the reason we gave him this award was because he is, as far as we've been able to prove definitively, the only part-time instructor who has been paid for a class out of Measure B in the last 3 years. So to clarify that, that would be 3 years, $24 million of expenditures, and exactly $4,288 as reported to the Citizens Oversight Measure B Committee in January. Those numbers are currently being revised because the Measure B expenditures are often revised over several years, so we don't necessarily know if eventually that will still be the case when it's restated in August, when we actually get the official, unofficial, official actuals. But at some point, what we would like to emphasize is next year we would very much appreciate having more of a voting process where there's more than one class. And even though I'm sure Solomon is a wonderful instructor, his EET 204 class in the summer of 2016, I doubt was what voters intended when they passed the parcel tax in 2012 to be the only class represented for 3 years and $24 million. And so I would encourage all of us to just be better. So thank you very much.
Hamayan Shinwali. Hamayun. Jenny Limper.
Good evening. My name is Jenny Lemper, and I'm a teacher at College of Alameda in the ESL department. I've been teaching there for 3 years. I'm here tonight to bring attention to a community of women to whom access to education is especially meaningful. These women that stand with me here this evening are part of a unique and diverse community of English learners at College of Alameda. Their community will be dramatically affected if ESL classes at College of Alameda are not supported.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Nadia Samari, and I'm from Yemen. I came to this country when I was a teenager. Unfortunately, I never had an education growing up in the U.S. Until 2 years ago, I became a student in College of Alameda studying ESL classes. The school is really good for us Muslim women because I can say from my experience, it built my self-esteem and gave me self-confidence. We have become more academically focused. We have more opportunities. The college is preparing us to get into programs and have certificates. Also, as a mom, I have 4 children. I think I'm a role model now for my kids, helping them with their academic struggles. Thank you for your time.
Excuse me, we need a clarification. I don't have speaker cards. No, I'm sorry, it's 2 minutes for the one person who submitted the cards. Though, I'm sorry, everyone else got this right. There's one person, everyone has to submit a card. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry, but we have 20, we don't have.
Excuse me, but we're not gonna have people yelling out at no. We're gonna, if you wanna submit a speaker card, if anyone wants to speak, please do that. But we're going to respect each other in the democratic process. So you can get a speaker card, and then whoever else can queue up, but we're going to go through this appropriately. Next person.
And if you want to leave what you have written with us to read, we would like to see that later.
Okay.
But we must follow the processes, and that can be given to Brenda right over there. Thank you. Sorry, Peter Brown. Susan, you're going to share your card with someone? Susan Schachter?
Are we ready? Okay, I believe Wendy Belden is ceding her time to me. Wendy, are you there? She's back there.
Stand up, please, Wendy.
You want you to stand? It's here. Okay, I'm Peter Brown. I've been teaching machine technology at Laney for 12 years. I'm here to report to you about the status of classes in the CTE departments at Laney and to bring a little bit of the big picture and hopefully leave you with something positive. This will probably be my last speaking to you as a teacher at Laney. I'm retiring this semester. So this is a report from the latest CTE division meeting. As of now, all CTE summer programs at Laney have been cut, except for grant-funded high school student programs. Likewise, all CTE departments at Laney are required to cut one class from their rosters. And these are all programs that fill up. I can't say all of them, but many, many of these fill up every single semester with paying students. These students, our students in machine technology, after 2 semesters or 3 semesters, go directly into industry as highly skilled workers with more formal training than 10 and 20-year veterans in the machining industry. So these are very important programs. But I want to note something. The choices facing us today are increasingly stark for a larger and larger number of people. Over 40% of the U.S. workforce is now contingent, at-will employees with no security whatsoever, like our part-time teachers, and many working multiple jobs and still broke. Over 50% of the U.S. people are being pushed to the margins of the economy or outside of it entirely, barely surviving from month to month, week to week, or even day to day, and this includes your students and your teachers and your staff. These people are beginning to take action. We all know about what's going on with the Red State revolts, with the water protectors, etc. They're becoming a new political force to be reckoned with in the United States. The range of responses available to elected officials, politicians, is in more and more restricted. On the one hand, you can demand that government at all levels raise the money from the top to adequately and equally fund all of public education nationwide and indeed all public resources, including food and housing. Or you can continue to support, or by not opposing it, appease the withdrawal, the theft of public funds from public education, rendering public education a scarcity and a resource for corporate profit instead of the enrichment of the lives of all people through knowledge. The third option, the excuse that there simply isn't enough money to go around, is increasingly exposed as a lie. This new force may appear small or even ragtag at this moment, but it's growing rapidly, and it will become something to be reckoned with. You can become part of this force. We are part of this force. The growing demand is either serve the entire population fully or serve the billionaires. A sister before us early spoke eloquently about unity. It's obvious because we're here that there is not unity. How can we get unity? The foundation for unity has to be laid. There's a basis for unity. It's meaningless for us. I've heard that there's an offer from members of the board to sit with us and talk about this. That will be meaningless unless there are significant changes on your part. One, of course, withdraw the cuts. Of course, make Measure B what it's supposed to be. Of course, instruct the chancellor to bring the district's use of funds down to the normal use, under 20%, instead of 36% of incoming funds. But there can also be a unified public message from you, from the chancellor, from every college president, to every single chancellor, every college president, and every board of trustees across the country that says, we don't have enough money. Why don't we have enough money? This is the amount of money we know it would take us to run our colleges appropriately, like the gems they are. And you know they're gems. I believe you believe that. And finally, demand, because this is where things begin to change. Hold the government accountable at all levels to fully and equally fund public education and all public services. I believe perhaps the student trustees could lead you in that.
Thank you,
I think
Mr.
that would
Brown.
be a
Your
good
second
place to
time has
begin.
expired.
Thank you.
Chris Weidenbach. Chris Weidenbach. Hartsinger. Shaki. Nilofar, please come forward. And your name?
Hi, I'm Chris Weidenbach from Laney's English Department. I'm gonna read a statement from Christina Yanuaria. Dear Board of Trustees, I could not attend tonight because I am a part-time faculty member who must piece together a livable wage by working at multiple institutions. A mess has been made of Measure B funds. So instead of pointing the finger, let's figure out how to clean up this mess together. The fact is that the public trusts you with our hard-earned tax dollars to do the right thing, and there is still time to make sense of the mess of Measure B. I may not fully understand the intricate details of how all this has played out, but I understand how trust works, and I know that by doing the right thing, using public money for public good, offering more class sections, and reducing class sizes is something that will work towards restoring public faith in the district and mend broken trust. The road ahead is not easy, but it is one that we absolutely must travel together in an open and honest dialogue, supported by equitable action for students, faculty, and the community the district serves. We saw the power and the responsiveness of this board last fall when you directed the chancellor and others to stop playing footsie with the Oakland A's. We appreciated it. That's the kind of action I feel like the board exists to take. Honestly, as Blake Johnson mentioned earlier, we don't know where all these Measure B funds have been spent. It is quite a mess, as Christina said. Something we call for that's very easy, and then the goal is to restore the public trust, is a full, external, independent audit conducted by a team chosen and approved by the shared governance committees that are built
Mr.
to
Weidenbach,
collaborate
your time
with
has
you
expired.
to make these colleges work the
Mr.
best they can.
Weidenbach, your time has expired.
Thank you very much.
Hartsinger, Shakwi, is Neilfar. If you're not in line, next Phyllis Martinez, Brad Balkian, Lori Sample, Belugian, Lori Sample, Naomi Schiff. Would you all please come forward? You're ready. Go ahead.
Hi, everybody. My name is Hart. I am a student here at the Peralta Colleges. I attend classes at Laney, Merritt, and College of Alameda. First of all, I want to say I'm very grateful to be able to pursue an education. I spent the majority of my life working in the restaurant business, which was great, but I feel like I want to make a change in the world, and the only path to do that is through an education. In order to pursue my full-time education, I have to take 2 part-time jobs, and so I understand what it's like for someone to be working part-time, to be working multiple jobs, and it's from passion that I continue to do that, and I know that all the part-time professors here that I've taken classes from exude passion because they're in this for the right reason. They're in this because they love teaching. And so to see that, it inspires me. And so to hear that they're losing their opportunity to teach and classes are being cut, which might interfere with my expeditious travel through the Peralta system, it's disappointing, especially considering money was spent and it should have been put towards this project. I just want to leave with an analogy. Let's say you give somebody money to go buy pizza, and you trust them to go buy pizza, and they go and they buy one pizza, and they bring it back, and you say, hey, where's all the pizza? And they say, oh, well, I don't know. We just got one. That's kind of what the situation is going on right here. So kind of a silly analogy, but anyway, thank you very much.
Shakwi. So Shaki's not here. Nilafar is not here. Phyllis Martinez, not here. I'm sorry, you're Phyllis? You're next. And then there are two more people, and then Naomi, you're coming up after that. Thank you. Okay. You can start.
Names again, and I'll check in the lobby.
My name is Phyllis Martinez, and I'm the program director of an adult ESL class in the Fruitvale. In 2016, we started to work with the Direct Connect Consortium, which was tasked with implementing AB 86, a statewide initiative to increase the community college pipeline, primarily by seeking out challenging populations in the foster youth program, formerly incarcerated and English language learners. The consortium has worked tirelessly to create these pathways, creating transition advocates within both of your universities here, and making pathways to these populations. Not only is the current political climate difficult for our population, which is heavily Hispanic, to navigate, but the whole application process, assessment, residency issues, on and on, that happens when they try to get into the Peralta schools, language, technology, transportation, it's challenging, but we're starting to make those inroads. We're starting to see the AB 86 money work. I have students come out of our program and getting into Peralta at this point. However, to cut classes now, while these inroads have started to be made, while we're starting to see the results of 3 years of work at the state level all the way down through, is devastating. Students that I have, 2 of my students are here tonight. One of them is in his first class. He hopes to take ESL and move into business. He wants to have his own business. He wants to get an education through your program. My second student is in her 3rd class. She hopes to continue to move in and get classes, but she works. The classes that you're cutting are frequently evening classes. She works in the daytime. What does she do? How do you keep her? So at a time when the state has mandated that we try to bring these populations in, it's amazing to me that you're actually choosing to cut the very things that are becoming successful. So I really wish you would reconsider these cuts, especially when the state is saying, build the community college system. Thank you very much.
Naomi. Next, we have Brad after Naomi, then Lori Sample, then Leslie Riemann, and then Jay Paulins, and then Susan Schachter.
Okay, my hearing isn't always so good, so I get confused. Naomi Schiff, I'm here as a taxpayer. And I want to thank the board for really sitting through so very many speakers. It's sort of impressive how eloquent they are. I've been voting for a local bond measure since 1974 here. And when my youngest niece couldn't figure out what to do, Laney and Merritt helped her figure out a career. But even so, she had to take a very long transit journey over to San Francisco City College in order to get the final class she needed to get her certificate. And that was a couple of years ago already. So my question is, where is the connection between Measure B bond funds and the strengthened offerings that we expected and were promised as voters? Where's the money that we are paying? It seems to me that administrative power and funding should stand behind education and support it. And I know that's what you mean to do. You don't mean to get in the way. But you know, I looked at this report, and I'm a professional graphic designer, and I want to say you spent too much on these charts. They are too expensive. However much you paid for them, it wasn't worth it. On your consent agenda, you've got some $40,000 for Prather Law Offices under item 6.5. Seems to me that would pay 3 adjunct teachers to teach some classes. So let's cut Prather. I don't know what they're doing. Maybe it's very important, but maybe we should cut Prather and pay some teachers. Don't cut your classes. The class offerings are the reason the district exists, and it is what we voted for, and it is what we expect, and it is what we expect the next time you ask us to pass a bond measure. Thank you.
Brad Belugian.
Hello, everybody, administrators, chancellor, trustees, college administrators. So this is actually a very solvable problem, and I think that you guys want to solve it. And I have faith that you guys will work with us to solve this. I'm the part-time faculty rep. I'm deeply concerned because we have the situation where our class schedule has been reduced. Now, when the schedule went live about a month ago, there were approximately 126 fewer classes in the schedule for the fall as opposed to the previous fall at 3 of the 4 colleges. That's what we're talking about when we talk about the cuts. However, we do have the money to restore those classes. When I looked at the budget from 2017-18, there's $1.4 million in a Measure B reserve that could potentially go towards those classes. The average part-time class costs about $5,000 to restore. What we're asking for here is something very specific. When you guys see the district's tentative budget next month, we would like to see that these classes that were not scheduled, and those part-time faculty that are now out of a job because their class was not scheduled, we want to see those classes back in the schedule and paid for in that budget. And there's a deliverable here that is very testable. It's there or it's not, right? So my perspective on this is trying to harness all of the wonderful energy and the comments that have been brought to you today and come up with a very concrete ask. And we have Roman Syria, we have an enrollment management committee meeting Friday morning. The work of that should be to figure out how can we put these classes back in the schedule. That's a simple ask. We have the money is there. I can show it to you. And so I hope that a month from now when we come back, we've seen that that's done and that those part-time faculty are back to work and students, once again, have the choice they deserve. Thank you.
Lori Sample. And next in line is it Leslie? Sir, what is your name?
Mr. Paulus.
Okay, I have you. Susan Schachter, Leslie, R-E-I-M-A-N, it looks like. And then we have Mary Claire Miller and Jeff Sinceri. And then we have the 3 ladies, Adala, Gislan, and Elizabeth. Ready?
Hi, my name is Lori Sample. I'm an instructor not only at Laney College but also at Las Positas College. And I come to you today as a representative of the International Rescue Committee, which is an organization that helps refugees, asylum seekers, and victims of human trafficking to escape violence, persecution, and other threats to their lives. My role at the IRC is as the Economic Empowerment Instructor, which means that I manage our vocational programming for refugees, asylums, and victims of human trafficking who are resettled in the Bay Area. So as someone with one foot in the community college system and the other foot in refugee resettlement, believe me when I tell you that the colleges in Peralta system provide a bridge for our clients to regain the dignity and dreams of the lives they left behind. Our clients are engineers, mechanics, nurses, lawyers, teachers, and students. They have overcome obstacles that most of us cannot begin to imagine, not least of which is finally arriving in what is supposed to be a sanctuary and finding that years, sometimes decades, of experience and qualifications count for nothing without US-recognized certifications. For these clients who need to re-qualify in their fields or resume their studies, ESL classes at Peralta colleges are a vital first step. Currently, the IRC has a healthy pipeline from our programs to all Peralta colleges. Reducing the ESL and vocational ESL classes at your colleges will result in our clients taking longer and longer to get their careers back on track and achieve economic stability. But this decision will not only have serious economic impacts on refugees. These are people who have lost homes, family members, as well as an entire way of life. The mental trauma of these losses cannot be overstated, but it can be mitigated by empowering refugees with the language skills they need to thrive in this new country and rebuild their lives.
Ms. Sample, your 2 minutes has expired.
Sorry. Please don't cut any classes. That's it.
Leslie, thank you for your comments. Leslie? Okay, Mr. Paulson? Can't reach her.
I'm here to speak on behalf of public education, what it was, what it is, and what it should be. So a lot of you guys are Democrats. Well, many ages ago, Democrats gave us a lot of progress. They gave us a New Deal. They gave us a Great Society. They gave us Project Head Start. They cared about poor people, and they did not privatize schools, nor did they destroy them. My parents had 10 kids. Neither of them went to college. We all got college degrees. I got a PhD from the University of California. So, how likely is that going to happen today for any of your many working class families that are in your district? I don't think it's very likely, especially the way you guys are going. Okay, so I have only to say that you are not my grandfather's Democrats, and you're not the Democrats my parents voted for. Measure B was for students, period, not for bureaucrats, nor with expanding entourages. Millions were spent for administration and only a pittance for education, for teachers. Why are you firing teachers when you should be hiring them? AC voters gave you millions. What are your results? Do you consider 11 vice chancellors results? In the Peralta district, the word vice has long been associated with chancellors, but in a historical sense, vice refers to corruption. I call your attention to Chancellors Ron Temple and Elihu Harris. These two were, quote, vice, unquote, chancellors. Chancellor Laguerre, surely you don't want to be remembered with these characters. So, trustees, chancellors, don't cut classes, cut corruption. This is not a rich people's campaign. C'est la vie ou c'est la guerre, aux hommes et citoyens.
Susan Schachter? Come on forward.
Hello, everybody. I'm Susan Schachter. I taught at Laney for 24 years. I was a part-time faculty member the whole time, and I know the ups and downs of part-time faculty employment. Tonight, my heart goes out to students and part-time faculty members. Even in my old age, I have a habit of paying attention to community college and adult education issues, and that brought me here tonight. 6 years ago, I worked very hard to pass Measure B, and was, of course, happy when it passed with 72% of the voters. I did a lot of things during that campaign to make sure that people knew about Measure B, understood it, and were prepared to vote for it, which they did. I have been very disappointed in recent times hearing about the problems of the spending for Measure B, as you have heard over and over again tonight. I spoke with a colleague recently who is a counselor at Laney. She told me that she notices that students are having a much harder time these days compared with 10 years ago. They are challenged by housing issues, transportation, childcare, and getting classes to proceed toward their goals. I urge you to listen to the speakers tonight and restore the classes and the jobs.
Mary Clark Miller. Is Jeff Sinceri in the house?
Yes.
Thank you. Okay. Right. You're still conceding your time to her? Yes, thank you.
Hi, Board of Trustees, Chancellor. I'm Mary Clark Miller. I'm the co-chair of the CE District Committee, and I'm here tonight to represent not only that committee, but also the CE faculty in all 4 of the colleges. We're presenting a letter tonight, and this is a way that we can help save some money and redirect some funding back into the classroom. So I'm just going to read the letter. We, the CE faculty of Peralta Colleges, are requesting a hold on the permanent hiring of the Vice Chancellor position for WDCE. The direction of the WDCE continues to be nebulous and has changed several times over the past 2 years. We feel that it would be appropriate to suspend this position until a clear rubric is developed in order to guide the WDCE successfully. Furthermore, the CE faculty request that this position be that of a director and that it be housed under academic affairs. This will allow the position to work in concert with CE faculties so that workforce development and continued education can succeed as an extension of current programs. The CE faculty of Peralta Colleges request that when this position moves forward, CE faculty have input into the job description and representation on the search committee. So a number of faculty have signed this letter to show their support and that we are working in collaboration on this particular piece. Okay, so that's it. Thank you.
Adala, Omar, Gisla, and Elizabeth, are you still here? Okay. Are they still here? She's going to check. That concludes the comments from the public.
Linda, did you call Leslie Ryman? Leslie standing there?
Yeah, but I was waiting for you to call me. I'm sorry. Yeah.
Thank you. Sorry, please come forward.
Good evening, everybody. Hi.
Hi.
I'm Leslie Ryman. I teach over at College of Alameda, and it's an honor to work there. I love everybody that I work with. And I want to invite you to restore the classes that are going to be cut, because I benefit from those students that come and take my classes. I teach human anatomy and I teach introduction to biology, and I get a lot of those students that are ESL students. I myself, I speak Spanish originally, and I benefited from courses of that nature in high school. I was very fortunate, and and I know that they will benefit from having those classes available. So I invite you to do the right thing. I invite you to think about the future of our students. I invite you to think about the future of our community right here that is going to affect all of our future, okay? So I hope that you really think about that. I invite you to ask all of the faculty, all of their community, to see if they could come together with you. And I offer myself to see how I can help you to come up with some kind of a solution. That's all I want to say. Okay, thank you.
That concludes the public communication portion of the agenda. The next item on the agenda is 3.10, Chancellor's Report.
Thank you, Madam President. We're going to hear a brief report on our progress toward One Peralta that Shioma and Brucey will be presenting to you. But I also wanted to just make brief comments about some of what you've heard tonight. In spite of the public comments, we have actually allocated an increase in our full-time equivalent faculty for the next academic year. We did this by setting the target at the realistic level of 17,500 students with a decreased productivity of 17.0. We now need only to work to re-enroll our current students, increase the number of full-time students, and effectively market to and enroll as many new students as possible. Given our decreasing enrollment at a rate of approximately 4.5% per year for the past few years, this faculty allocation both accommodate student scheduling needs as well as maintains a consistency in the schedule. For 2016-17, we had an allocation of 1,154 FTEF. For 17-18, it was 1,185. And for 18-19, we have 1,203. So we have actually added for the coming year as opposed to decreasing. However, we do not have as many students as we normally have. We have decreased our expectation in productivity, and we are doing the very best and be as accountable to the taxpayers as we need to be. With that, Ms. Nbusi will share with you a brief update on One Peralta.
Trustees. Thanks, Chancellor, for the opportunity. I'm here to give a brief update about the One Peralta project. We're going to reach...
I'm sorry, can you move the mic up so I can hear you better? And the rest, just move this piece here.
Yeah.
This, I'm sorry.
There you go, yes.
Okay. Next week, we'll reach a milestone for the One Peralta Finance project. We'll be going live with that project. I wanted to, the Chancellor asked me to give an overview of the project. So leading up to this moment, or this milestone, we've held 26 design workshops. We've prioritized 21 business processes to improve the way we do business for our finance department. This week, our online training was released. We opened up lab hours at all of our colleges, and we also began our final user testing. Next week, we'll start classroom training for just-in-time training for those select groups that perform more complex tasks. By Tuesday next week, with the Chancellor and our executive sponsors, VC Cole and VC Johnson, we'll be making a go or no-go decision. And once we make that go decision next week, we'll start cutover activities that evening at 5 p.m. Takes about 48 hours to about 60 hours window. So we hope to bring in users to do a smoke test probably by Thursday, Friday, and make sure that everything is working as designed. Monday, May 21st at 7 a.m., we should have our systems up and running. Our post-implementation support will have our core team at each of the colleges. We do have One Peralta ambassadors at all the colleges that will be supporting them to make sure that we do not have any operational downtime. Productivity is not impacted. One Peralta help desk support will open with 3 lines so that people get a live person in case they have any issues. We'll have someone there from 7 a.m. till about 5 p.m. Troubleshooting. Again, we will be opening labs at our colleges right after post-go live so that people, in case they run into issues or they want to learn more, to drop in and meet our experts. And in the meantime, our HR pillars and student pillars are due to go into system testing the first week of June, and we'll test the whole month for our first system testing for those pillars. And these are post-go live support, our ambassadors, our finance leads that will be at each of the colleges. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
That concludes my report.
Trustee Gonzalez, you in?
Thank you. That's exciting news. Just a couple quick questions. You've got your go, no-go date. If it ends up being no-go, it's like, we're not ready. Things are going to fall apart if we do this. What's your next window to go? The following weekend?
Pardon me. Point of order. Let's just hold on a bit, Nikki. Let him get over there and keep going.
Go ahead.
Our next window will be the next weekend.
Great. And then the other thing is, It seems like this thing is rolling out pretty smoothly. When you look at your benchmarks, your milestones, are you hitting them all? Or are there some rough places where it's like, we ran into this, we didn't know about it, this is going to cost more money? And I ask that just because you never quite know. And as a trustee, I always want to know in advance, like, you know what, that one's not looking so good. Or, no, this is completely on track to exactly what we expected.
So far, from what we have been able to gather, we have presented to you where we feel that we needed extra expenditures. And other than that, from other reports that I have received, things are moving the way that they should. We did need to adjust staffing a little bit to make sure that we have appropriate personnel to deploy for the support that we needed. But so far, I'd say so good.
Thank you.
Chancellor. The next item, Chancellor, is that you guys finished? I don't see any more questions. Okay, so next item, we have presentation 4.1 BRJ and Associates. Presentation presented by James. Come forward, please.
Good evening.
Good evening, Dr. James.
President Brown, members of the board, Chancellor Gure. My name is Bonnie James. I'm President CEO of BRJ and Associates. We're pleased to be here this evening. We've been working with the college, with the district and the colleges on the reorganizational review of two departments, the Departments of General Services and the Office of Finance and Administration. Let me first introduce our team. Before Mark Edwards was with us, he's unable to be here this evening, but the Senior Project Manager for the project for BRJ and Associates, Brooke Duncan, is here and will be trading off with me in terms of the presentation. We produced 2 volumes of reports. Volume 1 is a report that recommends what you're about to see, and also the second volume is the applications of the appendices. And the appendices are in support of the report that you will be seeing, and some of you already have. The board has those reports as we speak this evening. I would like to also thank the Chancellor's Organizational Review Committee. It was a committee that was put together from staff and some administration. They worked very, very hard with us in putting this together, so we'd like to express our thanks. We met with approximately 150 people or groups of people at the 4 colleges as well as the district office. We'd like to also thank them for their help and their support and recommendations as well. The scope of our services, BRJ, the evaluation of the current operations and systems of these two departments. That's the Department of General Services and the Office of Finance and Administration. Recommendations for the department, organizational structure, recommendation for addressing the department's operational challenges, and recommended steps for improving prompt payment, which is an issue for the district, as we understand, and certainly we learned that very quickly. Recommendation plans for addressing facility needs, and there are a number of them, and we will briefly discuss them this evening. In our process, we ran across several questions in terms of what it is we would be doing, and so I'd like to make sure that we differentiate between the scope of our services and what the scope did not include. Personnel, specific recommendations were not a part of it, and we received an awful lot of questions about the not in the BRJ scope area, and that's one of the reasons why I'm covering them. Detailed cost implications of recommended changes, and the detailed implementations of activities, and of course the board of the broad technology recommendations that had to do with Deloitte and the IT department and the enrollment for marketing, and certainly those areas need to be looked at, but it was not a part of our endeavor nor part of our scope. Key findings in two categories: recommended organizational structure, which I will be covering, and the second is the additional studies, other observed operational needs, and there are a number of them. We'll cover them this evening. And of course, the district foundation required for support of the organizational structure change is going to, what we will be recommending this evening is going to require a great deal of support from the district and from the staff as well. Changes to the organizational structure. We are looking at the multi-divisional structure. We're going to be recommending an executive vice chancellor, and the business plus the general services have been combined. There's been there are 4 areas that we're going to be, that currently exist, 4 departments/divisions. It's the combination of titles. We'll be talking about that as well. 2 divisions, 1 structure. We're going to be looking at the consulting bond program management. The changes to the structure exists, the contract and procedure, contract procurement area, the departments, the contracts are distributed throughout many departments, and so we're recommending bringing those together, procurement and contracts in 1 department. AP was moved from under moved under the fiscal services area. Currently was in purchasing. And we added, added the Department of Facilities, Data Management, and Records Department. There's 2 individuals that would be recommending for that department. And the reorient the capital projects. We are placing a great deal of emphasis on planning in that department. The structures of the small cap units and the large cap projects as well, depending upon the monies that are coming in, the bond measure, and the maintenance and operation streamlines, split level systems, which, and of course for reporting purposes. I won't spend much time with this particular slide because I need to get to the real meat of the presentation. However, once the structures that I will be talking with you about are in place, this is what it will look like reporting to the chancellor. The college presidents, the vice chancellors that you see here, information technology, of vice chancellor of academic affairs, and vice chancellor of executive vice chancellor, which were two divisions under that executive vice chancellor. If you're wondering why the coloration is there, when you see that in the presentation, it has to do with a new position or a promotion of a position. In the promotion, there's only one of those. It has to do only with moving a person from an AP to a supervisor's level. This structure is the recommended this structure is a recommended structure for the division. As I said, there are 4 departments/divisions that you currently have. We are combining those into two divisions under one structure, under one executive vice chancellor would be our recommendation. The associate vice chancellor for the Division of General Services. Associate vice chancellor for the finance and administration. Finance administration, general services. And then the consulting team here for bond measures with a project manager at each of the campuses. That is anticipation of bond measures that you may pass. But that structure, as you see, reports to the executive vice chancellor, but on a day-to-day basis, it reports to the associate vice chancellor of general services. That's a day-to-day responsibility of that associate vice chancellor. The other thing that we're recommending in this entire process is the nomenclature change. And what I mean by that all of our presentations and all of our structures that we're recommending to the district are in either division, department, and units. Division, department, unit. And you see that throughout this presentation. We consulted and reviewed 9 multi-campus districts in the state of California, and coming up with a recommended structure for this district. This structure that we're recommending here will not be replicated, you will not see this in any of the 9 campuses or 9 districts that we reviewed. However, we took their concepts, and what we tried to do is to put our best practices into our thoughts, and utilizing that process, we came up with this structure for this district. And of course, much of that was talking with our advisory committees. They were extremely helpful in terms of talking us through what exists currently versus our proposed best practices for this structure. So, one structure, 2 divisions under that one structure, under the executive vice chancellor. breaking it down further, you have, and if we had the other departments, you would see that this section was previously a part of the Facilities and Operations Department, and we simply combined several areas that make sense to put it under the Maintenance and Operations, and that's the department that we are calling this area. That has in it the typical maintenance and operation functions, grounds, and facilities. The capital program came from the Facilities and Operations Division as well, and we placed that under this Associate Vice Chancellor. The details, these are the details of the chart that you saw a moment ago. This is the new unit that we were talking about, having to do with the facilities data management, and a great deal can be done with that unit. It should be done with the unit, and that is trying to maintain control of information on your facilities. You are controlling somewhere roughly 250 acres, and you need to know where things are, shut-off valves, as-builts, et cetera. And that unit will be responsible for that, handling that information. Also manuals and standards having to do with your facilities. The Department of Finance and Administrative Services Division structure, once again, if you were to see the existing structure, the AP right here, accounts payable, was under the budget area, the budget department. And part of the problem with the payment has to do with, we believe, lack of communication, lack of coordination, lack of coordinated management. And to place that under the fiscal services area, we've moved it from here to here, under the fiscal services area. We also placed greater emphasis on accounts receivable right here. That was dispersed through the department before bringing it here. Now it's under a unit, which hopefully will do a much better job, we believe, in collecting what is owed the district. So we moved individuals to a unit for accounts receivable. With that, I will turn it over to Brooke to go through the parts of the prompt payment process, what we've suggested for you, that we believe that will correct the problems associated with the payment issues.
Thank you, Bonnie. Hello, everybody. So the last item in key finding number 1 includes our charge to review the prompt payment process. So the steps we're recommending for prompt payment is no vendor work prior to a contract being in place, procurement and contract control separated from requesting department, a notice to proceed as a firm commitment of encumbered district funds, progress billings analysis by direct manager of vendor's work, followed by director level approval, and prompt AP processing in a fully trackable cloud-based system. The first part of the mapping chart to your right is the relationship between procurement and contracts that we're recommending. So this illustrates bringing the units together in one area, and this facilitates the communication and between procurements and contracts. So when you get to the last step in that area of a notice to proceed, you're starting with the request to procure, the authorization to procure, procurement units, turning it over to contracting, and then it ends up into a notice to proceed, which ends up in a contract and a purchase order already being in place. At that point, then the vendor starts work. When a billing is submitted, it's approved by the overseer or the project manager. It's approved by the director, sent to the finance, and payment is sent out. So in the implementation of this entire plan, should the board adopt this, work must be done, obviously, to get to a consistent procedure to be followed by everybody, dealing with the function of vendor payments. In key finding number 2 of the report, this relates to 2 areas that we recommend need further evaluation by the district. The first of which is facilities. As Bonnie mentioned, the district maintains 1.6 million square feet of facilities on 250 acres of district land. We strongly recommend that the maintenance needs of existing facilities and site improvements be given the highest priority for the reasons stated here on the slide. Safe, secure, fully operational for advancing student achievement by conducting a full assessment of district facilities, identifying the backlog, and creating a priority list with budget allocations that can be identified to address these needs and improve these factors. Some examples reported to us during our research phase was under-functioning heating systems, boilers in need of repairs, water filtering systems, doors and hardware, and a slow response to elevator maintenance needs, just to name a few. The second area of recommended study is human resources. The bullet points on the slide are some specific areas mentioned by staff in the interviews we conducted as a consistent challenge, which are job descriptions, compensation, working conditions, new employee orientation, training systems, and performance reviews. Again, just to name a few. An evaluation of HR can identify where areas of possible improvement in its performance, along with staff engagement. Commissioning a study with a holistic understanding of the organizational performance and a set of actionable recommendations can help bridge any gaps in operational processes, among other areas. Okay, so key finding number 3. As Bonnie mentioned earlier, recommendations for addressing department operational challenges is tied to the district-wide foundations required for support of organizational structural changes. The implementation of any beneficial changes must begin with addressing the district's overall culture, and it is the most challenging to successfully address. The chart before you here is one model that can be used to gauge 7 steps to success. There are 7 components which are listed above. These 7 components on the first line are vision, clear and communicated, values that are lived, not merely written, motivation and alignment, skills and abilities, financial incentives, resources, and an action plan. When these 7 components are present and working, the organization experiences success. When any one of these components is missing from the organization, it experiences a breakdown. And that's the rest of the chart. So the second line, where it says missing vision, when you're missing that component, you experience confusion, which is listed to the right of the chart here. The third line down, when you're missing values, it equals cynicism. The fourth line down, when you're missing motivation, it equals resistance. When you're missing skills and abilities, you are creating anxiety. When you're missing financial incentives, you experience crawl. When you're missing resources, you equal frustration. And when you're missing an action plan, you experience false starts. So in this slide here, we're defining what vision is. It's a public declaration describing the highest level goals for the present and future of the district, the fundamental reason for Peralta's existence. Purely an example of vision with language taken from the district's website is achievement of student access, equity, and success. Peralta's actual vision will be defined by the district and the colleges based on your priorities. So this is just an example that we came up with. This next slide example is of values. And values is defined as a systematic, ordered breakdown of institutional resources in direct support of the district vision. This pyramid is purely an example of how to define a value. Students are on top of the pyramid by access, equity, and success. It's directly supported by the next column, which is student achievement through activities, programs, and services. That, in turn, is directly supported by the colleges, the faculty, administration, and classified staff. That is thereby supported by the district, the governance and support, public information, workforce development, general services, the chancellor's office, human resources, academic affairs, finance, and information technology. And the last column there is directly supported by the foundational value of enhancement of the region. That supports everything. With that, I'll turn it over to Bonnie.
I would like to suggest that this presentation identifies the structure that the main focus of this presentation, restructuring, recommending a restructuring of 2 departments. And the structure that we have recommended, we believe can be very, very successful. There are other issues that we certainly came across during the time we were doing our review and analysis. We also suggest that you consider taking a look at those at some point in time. But certainly the 2 departments, we have, I believe, made a recommendation to you in terms of how that structure should look. So the next steps would be for the board to receive the report and or adopt some of the suggestions that are in it after you had an opportunity to take a look at more detail, engage planning services to implement what is in the report, and then, of course, number 3 would be to implement the actual implementation of the plan. With that, let's receive questions if you would like.
Thank you very much, BRJ and Associates. We really appreciate the amount of effort, the intensity of the effort, the thoroughness of the effort, and the consideration in reducing the cost that we know that you guys did this as a labor of love, and we greatly appreciate that. We know that you've put a lot of time and effort and skill into this, and we appreciate that, and also that we know that if we had to pay for all of it, we may not have had it. So we do very much appreciate the effort you've put in. I do have a question for the Chancellor. This is a very meaty, a very dense, a very involved report, and I think that we would have to have some type of work groups and some type of concentrated focus just to really digest it. And I was wondering what your thoughts were regarding how we could have a deeper dive to really get a sense of these proposals and any cost associated with it and any HR implications. There's just so many moving pieces. And your thoughts on how we could dive into this more.
I think the next step is really, as Dr. James suggested, for the board to take the time to understand more fully, review what we have, and you have the document now. We can take the time to really dissect it. And then we would need really an implementation project to really move forward. We can take time during one of our board meetings if we have further questions to really answer those, provide clarification for you, and consider adapting it. The thing that I would like to suggest is that we have had some of the issues that have plagued the district for a while, and I think that we cannot wait too long before we start implementing part of the study, if not the full study. So I would suggest that we do come up with a stage implementation of the recommendations so that we can really get the district to move forward in the way that we want the district to perform, especially as far as being able to pay our bills on time and attend to the needs the colleges have for support.
With that being said, it's on the agenda as a presentation and not an action item, so we would not be able to take action. But what I hear you saying is that there has to be some proposal for implementation, at least on part that can get us in better line with paying our vendors on time, and with, I know that we have small and minority vendors that can't afford the lag time that sometimes it takes, and so we're not having the social justice and equity that we wanted. And we also have a small vendor program that's not able to actually get traction because of some of our vendor problems. So does that mean that we would be getting a implementation plan for at least the most urgent portion of this and a smaller piece, and then we could have some sort of work group to look at the bigger piece?
That is correct. We certainly can do that.
So then you need us now to accept the report, and then that means that we say that we've received it, and then we will have some proposal at some later point that will give us the factors regarding cost and HR and all that stuff.
Yeah, in the next few board meetings, we will certainly need to do that.
Okay.
So at this time, is it proper to receive the report?
I believe that receiving the report only means that we say we received the report.
Okay, no motion. Thank you.
I don't think it's even a motion, because it's not an action item. Nikki? And Nikki and then Karen.
Thank you. I'll try to stay within the 4 minutes you just took there. Thank you.
Just, excuse me, we're going to have each of the comments. I did not time the minutes. Did anyone time the minutes?
Yeah, I did. You just
Then,
took about 4 minutes.
Brenda, if we're going to have a timing then, since there's a call for monitoring the time. So could you start the clock, and does it go to 4 minutes?
I could just make it twice, so it would be.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
Great. So 4 minutes? Mind being recognized? Okay. Thank you if you'd start me. I really appreciate the report. Very thorough. And I don't think I'm going to take all 4 minutes. I've got a few thoughts on this, though. One is that as we begin to roll this out, it strikes me that the most critical component of any implementation will be a deep dive into the shared governance process. As a board, we don't live with this stuff every day. It's the shared governance structure here that lives with it. It's the administrative structure across the campuses, the classified senates and classified workers, et cetera. And so I'm fully looking forward to hearing the reports from our shared governance bodies that I know you're committed to, so thank you. As a second matter, I'm noticing that this calls for, I think it's 3 new positions, roughly? And I'm just ballparking those positions, because one was like a super high-level exec, and I'm thinking that's a minimum of $180,000, and then you've got a couple of others, maybe that's $120,000. And when I add up the benefits and all that, we're talking in the neighborhood of about $550,000 for 3 positions if we get them sort of on the cheap. Now, it might be a little less, might be a little more, but my calculations, if we estimate that each class that we offer here, if we backfill it with a part-timer, I think we're budgeting about $6,500, something in that ballpark. Is that correct? If we make that assumption, $550,000, that's 85 sections that we'd have to either give up or figure out some other way to pay for, which would be 1,360 students, even if the seat count were way, way low, just like a 16-student seat count. If we were talking a seat count that was in the target range that we're talking about, a 34, well, now we're talking 2,890 students, and income, FTS apportionment earnings of $1.5 million. So if we take $550,000 and we put it into administration, it's got to come from somewhere, and so that's just got to be a critical component of what we're figuring out. The other part of this that I think is just critical, and I so appreciated the analysis, because we're failing in so many ways, and I know you used kinder language than that, but we're really failing in so many ways. But the analysis was kind of just in the district office, it looked like. Kind of like, well, what happens here? And I wonder whether if we did a big holistic analysis of the district, and we really looked at the functioning, and then said, if we were going to do a performance audit, if we were going to really look and say, how do we make the entire enterprise work well? Is there some massive restructuring? Because I hear that we're talking about the structuring within the district office, finance, et cetera, but I just happen to wonder, I'm just thinking, we can't afford this big administrative structure when we're dying on the FTS, we're cutting back classes or limiting the offerings. Something's got to give here, and I don't know where it's going to give, because I take you at your word that we need this, that we need these functions filled, et cetera. I just don't know how to pay for them, and so that's what I'm looking forward to in concert with our shared governance wisdom. Thank you.
Trustee Weinstein.
Well, thank you so much for doing this. I know it's a lot of work. I've been reading the blue manuals, both of them every day pretty much, and I'm worried, particularly with the comments in the second book about how we're doing. So I very much look forward to doing better, and I think that we can do better. So I'm going to ask one specific question and then a more general question. One specific question, I noticed that there's a controller listed, and I wasn't sure, I could ask you, Chancellor, I wasn't sure if we have a controller here.
We don't currently, but it's a position that we have reallocated funds to be able to do someday.
Okay, so that seems to me like a good idea. The other thing is, if we get a lot of change orders, where would we go? Like, how would this change that?
Let me have Dr. James address that for you.
Thank you. I have not seen your change order percentage.
Okay.
In terms of construction. However, I understand clearly, incidentally, BRJ is a planning and a construction project program management company as well. And I know that change orders is a concern of every board member in the world. And yet it has to do with a number of things, not just the chart. We can have a chart, we can have a structure, but unless oversight, proper oversight at the planning stage, number one. Number two, at the planning implementation, the pre-construction stage, which is construction, which is architecture in the planning area. Most change orders come from poor architectural plans. Because there are holes in the architectural plans, and so the structure is not going to necessarily change that, even though, as you recall, we had a structure for bond measures, and in that structure, that's where the controls for those kinds of things, the change orders would exist.
Okay.
But it requires professionals who understand what it means to review plans, and to implement what it is they review, and also to be able to say no to contractors who ask for change orders when in fact a change order does not exist.
Thank you. And just one last thing, I will say that I really appreciate this. I kind of wish that there was more to do with students and faculty and performance in those areas as well, because you do touch on it in the second book. And I think it would be helpful if we could do some of that. And I think that would maybe help us in terms of trying to figure out our overall budget and what's going to work for students, faculty, staff, et cetera. So I encourage that. Okay.
Trustee Moore.
Thank you. I'd like to thank you especially for your key finding number 3. During the presentation, you stated that a culture shift needs to happen, and I would definitely agree and say that that's the foundation of any positive step that Peralta can take. In my experience, I've seen people who don't perform adequately, to say the least, be elevated and be promoted. And I've seen people who work hard and who support students be punished. So, I mean, this is like a real firsthand experience for me. I've seen it happen, and even here today, I can't thank the people who help support me because I know they will be targeted. So, again, I want to thank you for your key finding number 3 and encourage everyone here to shift the culture here at Peralta. We really need a change. Thank you.
Trustee Brown.
Thank you very much. We very much
Trustee Brown.
appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Oh,
Appreciate it.
I see. Oh, I thought I heard you.
Just one comment. I'm sorry, I'll make it brief. First of all, thank you very much for this. I really appreciate, and having seen this structure more clearly laid out today has been very helpful. And I just want to add that in echoing some of the concerns of my trustees, both on and positive reinforcement, that we are looking forward to the Chancellor's more robust follow-up on organizational timeline, on resource development in order to support various components of this. So I just wanted to state that and thank you all for this presentation.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We greatly appreciate that, and we are happy to accept the presentation, accept your report. The next item on the agenda is a budget amendment presentation by Vice Chancellor Johnson.
Good evening, trustee members and administrative staff and constituents that stuck around for the budget presentation. I will be giving a FY 17-18 projected budget amendment and cash flow measure B. In full-time equivalent student report will be given Adele, our interim budget director, to give an updated status of the district. You adopted a budget in September of 2017, and as you can notice, the total budget revenue, total revenue was $145.8 million, and you adopted an operation deficit of $1.4 million, because our total expenditures was $147.2 million. As you can see, we did a projected budget amendment in each. We did a variance analysis of those changes that occur in the budget. As far as the state and local revenues, we're showing a variance difference. That variance difference is from when we adopt a budget initially, we do projections based on what the local property tax is gonna be, and then we get confirmation later on in the year. And you guys, it hasn't been brought before the board. So we're doing an estimated based on the real allocation of our local property tax, offset by our state allocation. So we build budget-based local property tax first, and then the state overlaps that. But our revenue base does not change. Also, our OPEB, healthcare expense cost, has been reduced because of the rate. The 9.6 was estimated based on a higher rate. The rate was lower, so we're projecting $7.7 million. It's going to be actual for our healthcare costs as far as our retirees. We also, that's why we're doing an FTES equivalent presentation, because this budget was built on 19,528 FTES. The district is coming closer to 18,843. So the state will be adjusting our allocation from our state appropriation to over $6 million. That's a total of 1,185 FTES. Now, when we look at the expenditures, we're adjusting expenditures, as you can see, the full-time academic under the expenditures, and the academic administration, other faculty. Those changes is due to vacancy savings. When we build a budget, we automatically build vacancies inside the budget. And also in the benefits calculation too, you'll see that it's adjustment too, because those benefits also go with those vacancies when we initially build a budget. The part-time academics, we have a lot of conversation about the part-time academics administration. As you see, this budget was built on 10.7 million of part-time, and also other counseling positions, librarians, that it impacts the classroom or support the classroom. We adopted a budget of 10.7 million based on those positions. We have exceeded that budget by 12 million. And part of this has been actually allocated to Measure B. So this is only based on what is actually impacting the general fund. So the district is spending over 23.1 million on part-times and counseling and all those other positions that support the classroom. So actual part-time teachers, instructional in the classroom. So this is happening in your general fund. Also classified partial, we have partial vacancy savings. And partial, this was actually allocated to support, only like 1 million was actually used to support out of Measure B. Then the benefits is from vacancy savings also. As we go down, I want you to take a particular look at bad debts because you were brought a schedule and we haven't been addressing, the district haven't been addressing their bad debts expense, but we have a schedule that we brought before the board. I think it was back in January or December, that we was gonna allocate $600,000 in this budget to address this bad debt. Also, additional funding to Department of General Service. We have a lot of work that needs to be done to close out this fiscal year. So I had that department to look at all these outstanding projects and we allocating additional $500K to keep the district running properly. Also, the OPEB, we're going to take that off. The budget's going to be actually reduced by that because I did a cash analysis with the OPAD and our K&N consultants today. And we're going to reallocate that and it won't be coming out of general fund. So overall, we're going to have a $1.7 million deficit in our general fund. And as you see, the beginning fund balance entry was adjusted from the actual audit entry. So that has been corrected. And overall, our ending fund balance is going to be $14.7 million. This next slide just show how the state allocated fundings come first for the local property tax. When we build budget, we do a rough estimate, and then adjustment is made based on what the actual local property tax is going to be allocated to the district, and the state appropriation take up the balance of that. And right here you see 2017-18, the student receivables write-off schedule. We are on track. We projected it was going to write $599K. We also estimated to $600. This is a cash flow. I'm doing a cash flow analysis to see where the districts are. We're projecting our revenues, and we can do a snapshot of when our revenues come in. I condense it down, and I can send the board trustees a full report of all the counts that goes with the analysis. But I kind of sum the revenue, and you can see the expenditures by classification. And when we have low months, as far as our fund balance is low, when our cash is low, what happens is the county, we don't have to do borrowing outside for additional funding. The counties kind of sweep all our funds that is acceptable to be swept to cover any deficits we have. But we're going to do more managing in our expenses, and we're going to be looking at this consciously and building our next year budget so we can see when we're low, ensure that cash is in our general fund account to accommodate that. And we project here 2.7, also fund balance deficit, but that million will be removed from our expenditures, so it'll be around 1.7. This just tell you the overall fiscal management and responsibility the district has towards Measure B. What I wanted to speak to this slide is more at the bottom. Measure B has been audited by an independent audit firm, and they see that none of our proceeds were out of line as far as where we were spending our money. I had my staff to do analysis of where we actually spend the Measure B funding from the interception of Measure B. We have received 48 million, 8 million a year in 6 years. We have put 26.9 million towards instruction, which make up 57% of the Measure B allocation. Support service are like counselors, librarian, and it says supporting the success of students in the classroom. We spent 16.1, and that was only 33% of the whole Measure B funding. And also other operating expense was only 4 million, as far as equipment, supplies to support the classroom. I just wanted to give that snapshot to the board trustees and everyone to know that this is how we've been managing Measure B overall. This is the allocation we did for Measure B for this fiscal year. Measure B, we did the 2016-2017 audit actual report where Measure B was actually expended. We adopted a budget for 2017-2018. We allocated, Measure B was allocated by the expenditures for the college by the BAM allocation, and our expenditures for our instructional and benefits were 3.3, and support services that support the classroom is 4.4. And we totally spent a 7.9 of Measure B allocated this year, and we have a fund balance of $1 million left. And Adil will go over the FT.
Good evening, trustee. My name is Adil Ahmed. I'm the interim budget director. I just came up with this to just explain how our enrollments are playing in Peralta. As you can see, on the two first years, we were stable. Our enrollment were good. We were funded by the state at $19,500, which was great. But when you look at 2016-17, we were in a stability. So we ended, the state funded us at $19,528. So they're paying us through the apportionment every month. That FTEs times 5,000, which will give you a total revenue. But we ended at 15,000. So when we went to 2017 and 18, the state funded us still at 19,000, over 19,000. But we ended at 18,000 in 2017-18, based on P2 that we just sent 2 weeks ago. So when you compare the 19,500 and where we ended at 18,000, we have a shortfall in FTS, 1,185. So that 1,185 is a shortfall in value of $6 million that will be that the state will take for our apportionment this fiscal year. And this is because our enrollment is going down. So we should have some strategy how we're gonna retain our student and grow our student number so we can come up with
Any questions?
Thank you very much for that report. We greatly appreciate the time that you've taken and the clear explanations you've given. We do need a motion to extend the meeting.
For how long?
So moved.
We'll just
10
do
minutes.
10 minutes.
2 minutes.
Second.
That's all I'm giving you.
Second.
And we also need, did we lose our clerk? We need a timekeeper for questions. Natasha, will you do the timekeeping? Do we have any questions? We have Trustee Weinstein.
Thank you, Dr. Johnson, and thank you for doing this. I appreciate it, and you know, I do look at it and I study it. So one thing that stands out for me is the difference between, and I actually brought this up I think a while back, but I'm going to bring it up again, is the difference between the two, when we look at Measure B, the 2017-18 adopted budget. Let's take a look at the student support services, or let's see, yeah, the instructional services. So you look at the adopted budget, let's say, of the total instructional salaries, and you get $6 million, et cetera. And then you look down at the 2017-18 estimated actuals, and it's down to $3 million. And the same thing if you do, when you look at support salaries and benefits, it's $1 million, which is the adopted budget, and then it goes up to $4 million for the estimated actuals. How do those things work? I mean, I assume that when we do an adopted budget, we're actually trying to come close to what the estimated actuals are going to be. So how does that work?
Well, you know, one of the things, Dr. Weinstein, that happens is that after the budget is approved and then expenditures happen, the finance office has gone back and coded expenditures, even though they might have happened in the right category. there's some recalculation that happens. Vice Chancellor Johnson is still looking at these issues in terms of what happened in the past to make sure that we don't repeat the same issues. Because frankly, the expenditure happened. It's just that our accounting has gone back and recorded things, which we should have the approved budget as well as the expenditures to be pretty much the same, and that's what you're going to see in the future. But that was a practice that the Finance Office had used that we certainly do not feel that shows enough accountability. And actually, it punishes, right now, we have to answer those questions while the expenditures really happened where they should have happened. And that you will not see in the future.
Okay. And let's see. Do you know, I do understand when we talk about the instructional versus the service for the student support services. So just in general, it does seem in 217 or 218 that we were giving more to the student support services than to the instructional. And I'm wondering if there's any actual formula, let's say, that when you have a certain number of classes, then there's an X number of student support services, because it seems like it's a significant difference, and I would think it would be the other way around. I would think there'd be more money for the instructional and less money for the student support services. But how did you make that equation?
Well, again, in support of Vice Chancellor Johnson, she was not here. Neither of them were here in making that decision. However, there is really no set formula to say you need to have X number of, say, counselors per number of students in classes.
There's not.
No, that doesn't exist. As a matter of fact, you may, you probably have heard Trustee Withrow talking a lot about the fact that the ratio that we have, which is not something that's established, is way too high for what we need in terms of support services. That's something that with guided pathways, I am hoping, or I am thriving to work closely with the president to correct that particular area. But there's really, in terms of Measure B itself, because the language allows for us to do instruction and other things that support students. So we have been able to do that, and as the audit shows, what we've done, what has been done at the district is proper. The important thing is the first issue you brought up, which is make sure that when we set the budget, that at the end we ensure that the budget and the expenditures are as close as possible. And if there are going to be changes, we do need to make them known before the end of the fiscal year.
I agree. One last thing, it does look like we have ending fund balance of $1,172,000 for the estimated accruals. Is there some way that we can use that for the classes that have been cut?
It's a very good question. Of course, I've been hearing it. We saw at least 70 emails about that. I invited the part-time faculty leader to meet with Dr. Brown and Vice Chancellor Johnson to talk about this particular issue. So they'll talk about it and let us know what can be done.
Okay, thank you.
And I just want to add to that, we're going to have a shared governance process when we roll out Measure B, so we're going to have more impactful thought in the whole Measure B process going forward.
Appreciate that.
Thank you very much, and thank you very much for the report. I look forward to getting these quite a bit. First of all, I want to just ask in the future if on the breakout on page 5, you've got expenditures and you've lumped in full-time, part-time, academic, and administrators all into one group, and it just makes it very difficult to then sort of look and say, well, what are we spending where? But I'm noticing down at the, you've got sort of steady spending, and then you've got projected spending in the last 3 months of about $2 million less each month in that category. And I'm wondering what accounts for that $2 million less in those last 3 months? Why are we having that sudden drop-off?
Well, we're not spending our vacancy saving. We actually allocated that out of the budget right now because we're closing out the fiscal year. So we're trying to reduce where we don't have vacancies that's in budget and we're not filling those positions this fiscal year. So we're, adjusting the budget for that impact.
Okay, so, and would that just be normal? You'd just anticipate you'd have vacancies and so you're
Well,
not going to fill them or is there something going on that we are not
Trustee
filling
Gonzalez-Wynn, please let the VC of Finance answer the question before you ask the next one.
No. What happens when you build a budget is built on adopted that you might plan to fill in all the positions, but we're in May now and we're doing projection and forecasting out. And if a position come on, we have enough allocated in there to cover any positions that were filled currently. And this 1 month is going to be June, that they will be starting if the board approves someone at this board meeting, and we'll have enough allocated in vacancies to cover that. But we're beginning to close the book, so we're trying to adjust the budget to our actual numbers.
Okay. Turning to the Measure B budget, which I, again, really appreciate the detail here. When were these budget figures loaded into the system?
What budget figures? The new?
The Measure B parcel tax summary fund, the detail here, when were these numbers loaded into the system?
The Measure B has always been in the system.
But these numbers?
Expenditures in there, they're in there. I'm just pulling expenditures as allocated in the budget already. These are actual expenditures. So when I came on, these are the expenditures, and I had them run reports on where our expenditures are. Where are we
Okay,
spending
so
the
that
money.
if we'd looked back over the 6 months ago, this would have been sort of what was in the system. It wasn't a retroactive reallocation.
I don't know when exactly the date, but these are expenditures that, since I've been here, has been allocated to Measure B.
I see, okay. And then coming back to that first page that we were just looking at, now notice you've got a category 5,000 to 5,999, consultants, utility services. Again, a breakout of that would be really helpful. Everybody's always, the hot button issue is consultants, and you always want to know. So it'd be nice to see that. But I'm noticing in the last 3 months then, the expenditures kind of double right there, and you go up to $3 million a month. Why are we seeing that jump for that last three months?
Well, the utilities try to catch up too. We are paying off our utilities, billings coming in at the end of the year,
Okay.
fiscal year.
And that's where that breakout would be.
Yes,
super
and we're
helpful.
trying to finish
Trustee,
projects
Can
that-
we make sure we don't speak over each other? This is recorded, so
Madam President,
when the
your
question,
style of
question
discussion is a little bit different than mine.
Trustee Gonzalez-Wynn, please try and maintain decorum and make sure that when you're having an answer, that you let the answer be completed before you speak again.
Madam President, you have a different style than I do, and I don't think anybody in the public looking at my interaction with the staff would think that I was particularly abusive or abrasive.
Trustee Gonzalez-Wynn, if you'd like to continue your questioning, please do so now.
I will. Thank you very much. And then, gosh, I totally got thrown there. In terms of revenue, we lost about $6 million in FTES allocation. And I'm wondering, we also, it seemed to me, as I was looking at the number of sections that we had offered, we'd actually dropped in the number of sections. And if I just do my rough calculation, and I said, well, if we had offered an additional 100 sections, and we'd had an average enrollment of about 18 seats, 18 bodies in that, so not super productive, we'd have generated about $1 million of revenue there. And I'm wondering, you've already got your basic infrastructure paid for, your grounds, your clerical, et cetera. At the point where you're coming down to the end of the year and you're trying to generate revenue, why not adopt a strategy in the spring semester of running much less productive classes just to get the FTES and also offer the classes. Why don't we do that? Because we've already paid for the overhead. What's our thought about that?
Well, we have really no thoughts right now. We'll certainly recommend that to the Enrollment Management Committee. That's something that they can look at. And then we can look at the fiscal cost, because there would still be fiscal cost, making sure that the cost is not higher than the return that we would have on it. That's something that we certainly will ask the Enrollment Management Committee to take a look at.
And I would encourage our members of the board to actually go back and look at this tape and look at that interaction and see whether in fact it looked abusive or abrasive. And in
May
fact,
I ask the board if they would all agree that it's time for us to move on and not have a personal dispute at the board? Shall we take a vote? Shall we take a vote? Shall we move on?
I'm perfectly
Do we
happy to
have
move on.
anyone
Thank
happy
you,
to
Madam
move on?
President.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Excuse me, can we not bicker at the dais? The next item on the agenda is board development. We have item number 5.1, which are the proposed trustee work groups. Item 5.1, proposed trustee work groups. Chancellor, would you like me to introduce this item, or would you like to? I think we should the Chancellor introduce this item.
Yeah, we have, as you know, we have had some challenges in certain areas, and having the board, some board members, as well as staff, faculty from our district to be involved in some conversations about some of the issues that we want to address is a good idea. As a matter of fact, the board has been challenged time and time again by some to show leadership in certain areas, such as finance and budget. So this is an opportunity for the board to do that. We have three groups: campus safety that we want to look at. We have finance and budget, and the other one, which I think everybody is interested in, is enrollment and outreach. And I think with that should help us in securing a better future, better budget, as well as taking care of the enrollment, and be able to hear from members of the public in a constructive way, things that such as what we've heard tonight. So I think all of this will allow the board to and the district to function a whole lot better.
Thank you, Chancellor. This item is not an under action or consent. So we're not, or correct me if I'm wrong, Counselor, but I'm understanding this to be an informational item for today, Council? Yes. Okay.
Just information.
So we'll have questions. Trustee Gonzalez-Wynn.
Yeah, I noticed that I was actually completely left off of this list. Trustee Withrow is serving on 3 of these working committees. Trustees Brown and Riley are serving on 2. Weinstein and Bonilla are serving on 1. I would actually like to serve on the Budget Committee, or alternatively on the enrollment. I bring a level of expertise and interest in these areas, and would ask the board to make that happen.
I would ask Board Counsel to explain to us the process by which ad hoc committees are appointed.
I'll just take a double check at your board policies, but ad hoc committees are typically appointed by the board president. And so a board president can appoint an ad hoc committee and constitute that committee. The board is welcome to consider any other ways, but it would start with the board president.
Thank you, Counsel. Trustee Handy?
I'm not on any committees, but I don't have a problem with that because I know that whatever happens will come back to the board and we will have a discussion. That's the whole purpose of it. So I don't feel that it's a slight at all. I think that the people who are best suited for those particular areas and have the time to do it were selected, and it's not it is what it is, but I'm okay with it.
Trustee Hollis.
Yes, when it comes to selecting members for the ad hoc committees, is there a process for students to get involved with those ad hoc committees, or is it just like student trustees that can be involved?
I'm going to, Board Counsel, correct me if I'm wrong, but I understand that if we do have a student trustee join the committee, it would not be a Brown Act violation, or could you let me know if it would be?
Yeah, I can double check. But I think student trustee Hollis's question was not only about student trustees, but other students as well.
Yes.
So yeah, the work groups could have others.
And just for clarification, the idea is to make these committees, they have trustees that are appointed, but they're really intended to embrace the greater community, and that would include our student population as well. So there are work groups that would have people that would be joining those committees to try and have a broad cross-section of people in the Peralta community that are working together. Trustee Weinstein.
Thank you. So I would like to recommend in terms of process that at least it be considered that if a trustee wants to volunteer, that they be given consideration to join a committee. I understand that at least in what we see right now, it's the president who makes the decision. But I'd just like to have you reconsider that if there is any trustee that wants to volunteer, that we find a way to make that happen, because these are three big areas and very important areas. And I think it would be great to have as much input as possible. Thank you.
Trustee Hollis.
Yes. Of course, this is more or less a future thought, as I don't know exactly. Well, I like to make the mention of could students be given incentives for joining like such work groups, like credits or something, since it's like over the summer program or something like that. So maybe not for this one, but the next ones that y'all have ad hoc committees and stuff.
I would direct that to the chancellor, because that would be an operational thing that would probably require working with staff to make sure. You'd probably have to have a class and a sponsor and all that. So I think it's an excellent suggestion, and I would defer that question to the chancellor, because I would not, as a trustee, be able to answer that or make it happen, but the chancellor could.
Yes, probably would be more if faculty student can work with faculty member if there is a class that fits that. Otherwise, we can always look at non-credit, still be recognized for the work that's done as a potential. But that would be a good discussion to have, especially as you said, for work that's done during the summer. Part of internships, for example, could be a good one to consider. So,
I think that's an excellent suggestion.
Yeah, look forward to talking with you about it, if you're interested.
Do we have any further comments or questions on this matter? Then we'll move on to the next item, which is consent calendar. Let's see, consent calendar. Do we have a motion to approve the consent calendar?
So moved.
It's been moved and second. We'll call, the second, it was Karen Weinstein. So it's been moved and second. Is there any discussion? I'll call the question. There being no discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. The next item on the agenda is the action item, which is, the first action item is consider approval of resolution 17/1840, existing student trustee absence. And the presenter is Board President Brown. Briefly, the board's bylaws require that there be an excused absence in order to receive the
stipend for the student trustee, and Trustee Moore had requested that this matter be put on the agenda and taken up. And that is the background of 12.1.
Madam President, may I move items 12.1, 12.2, and 12.3, all three action items at once? We could take one roll call vote.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to take all three action items, but I do point out that we have 6.1, which was the item. So 12.1, 12.2, and 12.3, which Trustee Gonzalez, you had moved. Do we have any? Oh, okay. So if it's been moved and seconded, now we have discussion. Trustee Handy.
So my question on this is, was this an excused absence? I couldn't figure out what it was in there. It said for board business, so there was another activity that precluded attendance at the board meeting.
Student Trustee Moore, maybe you can elaborate on that?
As I explained in my report last meeting, we had 2 meetings during that month, and I looked ahead at the calendar and saw that I was going to be away on board business in Washington, D.C. during a 3rd week. So for that first week, I did not attend because that would mean 3 absences for my Tuesday night class in 1 month. And then for the second absence, that was due to illness. I was coming back from traveling exhausted, and there are other reasons that I gave in the report. So in all, I did give many hours and days to executing board business.
Okay, so I don't have an objection to that. It's just, I feel that all of this being a student trustee is a learning experience, and we're preparing you for the future. So the protocol for us, if we're not going to come, is to let someone know. And that is the only challenge I have, is that we, in going to work or whatever, is we must let someone know if we're not going to be there. And so as a learning experience, I just want to put out there that this is the expectation that we have. Things will happen. We understand that. We're in the business of education. It's just that we are preparing you for the future. So in the future, we would not have to do this if protocols were followed. And she knows, and then it would have been excused in the beginning. Thank you.
So
that's news to me. They said that's news to me, but thank you.
So we have the motion on the floor to adopt 12.1, 12.2, and 12.3. Is there any further discussion? I'll call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. Next item that we have regarding action item is 6.1, and that item is the resolution that is at its first reading. We had this resolution go through the shared governance process, and this is the resolution regarding, there are actually two resolutions, or policies. One is the student board member policy, and the other is the informational security standard. So Trustee, well, let's first make a motion and a second to it regarding this item, and then we'll have discussion.
So moved.
Okay, it's been moved and second. Madam Clerk, did you get that? So discussion, Trustee Weinstein.
I'm really excited that we have this finally, and that it went through joint governance. I think it's going to add to our trustees' experience and knowledge to make sure that our student trustees have the ability to make and second a motion, as well as casting an advisory vote. We would be joining approximately 75% of the other community colleges in supporting and passing this. So I strongly support it, and I'd like to pass it. And thank Corey and Nessie.
Trustee Hollis.
I'll just be real quick with this. I just want to make mention that when it comes to working on boards, there's been a part of ASLC and Region 3 councils, that participation adds to the learning process of being able to work as a group with the councils that you're a part of. So the fact that we don't have the right to making second motions or to even have our vote heard in the minutes in regards to what we think about items kind of restricts us and restricts our voice as students. So really the advisory vote is more so for the fact that our voice is heard as students, but for the motions and seconds, this is a learning experience for us as students. And to participate with professionals on a council is paramount to our learning as students. I'll leave it at that.
I'd also like to thank Trustee Hollis for the work on this, and also thank Trustee Moore for raising this issue as well, but we really appreciate your contribution on this, Trustee Hollis. So do we have any further, actually, we have 2 items here. It's not just one. Does anyone have any comment regarding the second item, which is the Information Security Standard, Board Policy 3725? Hearing no further comment on these issues, and we have a motion on the floor to adopt items 6.1, item 6.1. So I'll call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. All right, the next item we have then is the informational item, which is the sunshining of the contract for the negotiations for the district for Local 39. And that is just our sunshine process for this particular item. So the last thing we have on the agenda is item 14, trustee reports. We'll start with Trustee Bonilla. Trustee Hollis.
Hello, board, faculty, administration, staff, public. I'll make this as brief as I possibly can. Transportation survey that we put out for, why is this very, very loud? Transportation survey that we have administered for the students has received, say, 574 participants from the students. This is good, yeah, but the bench number was like roughly about 10,000 or so. Right. Right. I still believe that the survey can be pushed into next year. So hopefully the trustees that come in afterwards push this so they can get to the ballot for the next election, for the next coming election for ASs. Since this is the last board meeting I have, I'd like to thank all of you for your support and your added help to my growth as a student. It's been great to work with you all in many areas and stuff like that. I'm sure there's a lot of people that see many emails by me. And it's like, as far as AS goes, Associated Student Governments, this has been like the crown of my education here, and I really appreciate it. The last thing I'd like to mention is that I have been accepted and admitted to UC Berkeley for a major in African American Studies. So, thank you. Thank you for your support, and I could not have done it without you, Peralta District. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your service, Corey.
Click this way, Corey. Yeah.
Trustee Gonzalez-Wynn.
Thank you. I'll make this very brief. I had the distinct pleasure last week of going to the Citizens Oversight Committee for Measure B, and I really want to commend the staff there who just are really consistently competent, very clear in their response to the committee, and I'm really looking forward to that committee coming to the conclusion that this district is worthy of their support in our attempt to renew the parcel tax in the coming year. So thank you very much, Vice Chancellor Johnson.
Trustee Withrow.
Just very briefly, 3 of us attended the trustee conference down in Valencia, and just a couple items real quickly. There was a lot of discussion having to do with what they call the Industrial Revolution, then the cyber revolution. Now they're calling it the education revolution. And they were the most pointed I've heard in terms of where they see digital online, and it was obviously discussion of the governor's community college, online community college, to address 2.5 million students that he indicates are left out in the cold. But the focus was truly in again, going into the cyber issue and the day of the individual instructor in a class is going away. It's going away. And they didn't have timelines, but you know, we're gonna be replaced by artificial intelligence, and a substantial number of funds being put into counselors, tutors, and academic coaches. And they're looking at 65% of the jobs requiring a college degree and 80% requiring digital. And they're not going to be able to do it under the current way we're providing post-secondary education. And I think it's exciting, but I think it's going to be a bit traumatic. And that's all I have.
Thank you, Trustee Withrow. As a point of order, Board Counsel, do we need to extend the meeting like another 5 minutes, or are we okay? You would advise us, okay. Do we have a motion to extend the board meeting for another? So it's been moved and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Everybody's opposed, but. Motion carries. Trustee Weinstein.
Thank you. I had the honor this past week to go to the Daniel Gilbert Memorial Scholarship, which was held at the College of Alameda in the Automotive Technology program, where the father, Steve Gilbert, has a scholarship that he gives to his students every semester, and in memory of his son. And it was really terrific to be there, to meet him, and to meet the other students and the work that they're doing. I really enjoyed it, and I enjoyed seeing Dr. Karras, and there's a lot of good stuff going on at that college, so it was very exciting. Also enjoyed meeting with the Laotian Community Services that the Chancellor and I are beginning to talk with and hope that we work with in the future in terms of students increasing our enrollment at some point with that organization. And lastly, I worked with Nikki Gonzalez-Ewan with the foundation to raise money for scholarships for the undocumented students, and I think it was a successful event. So thank you, thank you, thank you. Bye.
Trustee Moore.
As you know, every meeting I choose to not partake in a fancy catered meal in solidarity with a group of students who are told their basic needs cannot be met for lack of funds. Still, I know this puzzles some of you, as if we as trustees are considering some moral vacuum in which we administer resources knowing that everyone can't have their fill. The thinking devolves into something like, well, I have food to make these important decisions, and who is to say that students won't reap the benefits of me eating this fancy catered meal? To which I say, we are not here to have a philosophical discussion about moral relativity as elected public officials who are tasked with carrying out a mandate well defined by law. I choose to resist the misuse of funds not because it is my duty, but because I understand that making my community a better place will ultimately make a better place for me to live. If you had asked, you would know that, in this way, I reject the notion of acting out of a sense of civic duty, contrary to the lies you've concocted about me. This one in particular comes from your board report to the public. You didn't even spell my simple four-letter name correctly. Is it worse to have you publish lies about me or to simply write me out of history, like when you completely omit my reports? Maybe we can say they're ostensibly achieving the same thing. Not surprising, given that this board constantly describes itself as a 7-member board. When you send out seasoned greetings to the public, you're a 7-member board. When you write reports to the public, you're a 7-member board. When you set the table and prepare documents for board retreats, you are a 7-member board. All this year, when it came to making and seconding motions, you've chosen to be a 7-member board. Even when you sound roll call, you've been a 7-member board. All in all, when you are a 7-member board, you are sorely mistaken because you've left out the most important and fundamental element of your existence here tonight as Board of Trustee members. Students. The students who take up the role of student trustees and all the students represented by student trustees. Tonight, this lack of fancy catered dinner is dedicated to all the students who attempt to participate in shared governance in spite of, and sadly without the support of, administrators such as a 7-member Board of Trustees. Thank you.
Trustee Handy.
Yes, I had the honor of attending the Peralta Association of African American Administrators Scholarship dinner or celebration at Merritt College a few weeks ago. And hearing that some of our students, some who had attended the caucus, who were receiving scholarships, the incredible students and all that they have done and the hard work that they've done to move forward and to be able to go on to the other colleges is just pretty amazing. And I was very excited about one of our students who's going to be going to Norfolk, who also we were able to tell her about more scholarships that are available for the young people. What the staff and the association does is it comes straight out of their hearts. And it reminds me again of the same of the staff who, before we had a Peralta Foundation, raised our first $1 million. You just cannot beat the heart of the faculty, staff, and administrators that do so much to support the students. So hopefully a lot of pictures were taken, and we've asked that we can have an article go out in the newspaper just to show the pictures and to show where our students will be going, what they're doing with their funds, their stories, which are pretty incredible. And I mean, the event was very large, and I'd like to see it just continue to be larger and larger because the students just loved it, and their families were there as well. And then, again, with Trustee Withrow and Trustee Brown, we had we were able to attend the California Community College League, and I think Trustee Withrow covered most of it, but it was really interesting to spend the first half morning on guided pathways and really learning about all of the things that are coming through the pike. And Trustee Brown was right on top of it in terms of how we will be communicating with the faculty members and all, and how they will be getting back to us to let us know how we're doing on these really important initiatives that are coming our way. I mean, the trips are always very, very, they're jam-packed from 8 o'clock at night until 8 in the evening, but what is happening up and down California is pretty amazing, and the way that people are really working hard together to support all of our students in California is something that really makes us understand why we do this work. It's not a salary job. The joy comes from the students that are, and what we're able to do from them, and for the faculty members and what they do for our students. That is the pay that we get. That is what we get back for the time that we spend doing these things. And I just want to thank you all for your commitment because we see you. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll make this brief. Since I'm last, I can only add a few things regarding the conference in Valencia. I will say that there were some very important things that I did present there, but one of the issues that I thought was most important is that in November 2016, it was Peralta that had advanced a resolution supporting all students regardless of their immigration status, and we also started a joint caucus that blended the caucuses of the Asian Pacific Islanders, Veterans Caucus, African American Caucus, Hispanic Caucus, and that caucus has been thriving for the last couple of years, giving presentations and supporting student success. And one of the things that we had done at this last joint caucus session, which has become part of the league, was ask for a reaffirmation of our commitment to all students, regardless of immigration status. And I'll be working on that with as trustee from Riverside Community College District and State Center. So that'll be the north and the central coast and the south, but it just shows that Peralta is in the forefront with regard to some of these very important issues. And also AB 705, which is the co-requisite, the law regarding co-requisites for students, which is geared towards making sure that students are able to finish their courses more with the proper support and more quickly, finish their course objectives and their degree objectives. So we'll be talking about that more in the future. We're really glad to have had the opportunity to attend that conference. So that concludes the trustee reports. There's one thing that we need to do, which is add an amendment to the agenda. Under agenda item 6.3, out-of-state travel, the correct conference is the AED conference. So that's a correction regarding item 6.3. Do we have a motion to? Okay, so what we're going to do is correct the approval of the agenda to add that correction on item 6.3. It's been moved in second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries.
Madam President, just a quick, brief, exciting announcement from Dr. Gilkerson.
So I'm pleased to let the board know that Laney College applied for the Innovation Award from the State Chancellor's Office and was notified that we will be awarded $1.1 million to support our work with the Restoring Our Communities program, and so we'll be going for the Board of Governors to approve that on Monday. So we'll be there to accept it on behalf of the college. But there were 65 applications and 11 funded, and Laney scored on the third a proposal. So we're really proud of Roger Chung and the work that he does and the support of our students. So the award is to scale the work that we're doing with Restoring Our Communities and doing more work with formerly incarcerated students. So wanted to let you know.
Congratulations. So the announcements. Linda, do you want?
The next regular board meeting will be held in 4 weeks on June 12th at the District Office Boardroom. Tonight is the only board meeting in May due to the college graduations being held on May 23rd through 25th. Congratulations to all of our graduates as well as to all of our faculty and staff for all of their hard work to make this school year successful for our students. Best wishes to our student trustees as this is their last board meeting, and congratulations to our 2 new student trustees who will be sworn in at our June 12th board meeting. Madam President, that concludes the announcements for this evening.
Our meeting is adjourned.